One Calen leaned in, whispering one crucial sentence to his comatose wife. Wifey, when you wake up, let us keep our family titles completely separate. You call her mom, and she will just keep calling you her bestie. Hearing that, his vegetative bride practically bolted out of the hospital that night. It all started on a blind date with a very wealthy 80-year-old lady. She desperately wanted to find a suitable husband for her vegetative daughter. Calen figured that since the mother was still so elegant, the daughter must be stunning. The absolute best part was that she completely waived the entire expected bride price. She even offered $1 million, so he eagerly agreed to the arrangement. And get this, when Calen actually saw his wrapped-up vegetative wife, his jaw dropped. This beautiful woman was actually his own mother's long-lost childhood best friend. She was the absolute goddess of all his childhood dreams, lying right there before him. After a simple wedding ceremony right inside the ward, the relatives left. Soon, only Calen and the elderly mother, Allura Vance, remained in the room. Allura gently held her daughter's hand and whispered, "Serafina, my sweet child. Your mother found you a husband, a handsome young man named Calen. He is just the type you always liked, and today is your wedding." The old lady turned to look at Calen, her eyes wet with tears. "Calen, the head doctor says that Serafina can only survive for 1 more month. My own health is failing, so I must ask you to keep her company. Please visit her every single day on my behalf." Calen felt incredibly heavy. But no matter how he looked at it, his childhood dream was coming true. He nodded firmly, promising that Serafina is his wife now, and he will protect her. Hearing that brought peace to Allura, who was too weak to stay any longer. She said her goodbyes, leaving her new son-in-law alone with her sleeping daughter. Once Allura left the room, Calen turned back to look at his new bride. His heart trembled. She was incredibly thin, yet she still had a fragile beauty. Since it was just the two of them, he had no reason to hold back. Calen grabbed her small, pale hand, rubbing it gently to warm her cold fingers. Her hand was ice cold, but holding it felt strangely comforting to him. He whispered softly, "Auntie Serafina, or should I call you wifey now? You might not believe this, but my mother's name is Beatrice. Do you remember her? She was your old classmate and absolute bestie. You used to visit our house constantly and even carried me as a baby. But then you moved away for work, and my mother completely lost contact." He watched her face closely while speaking, but there was still no movement. Since she could not hear him, Calen just kept rambling about the past. He remembered how his mother once asked what kind of wife he wanted, and he had boldly claimed that he would marry someone just like her. The whole family laughed, teasing that she would be too old by then. But looking at her now, she had not aged a single day. Calen was totally lost in his monologue, completely missing her slight eyelid twitch. He kept talking, "Wifey, you absolutely must wake up quickly. Do not give up on yourself," but then he paused in deep thought. How exactly would she act around his mother if she woke up? Serafina's finger, held tightly inside the palm of his hand, actually twitched. He stood straight up, completely stunned. Was his beautiful wife really waking up? Overjoyed and totally panicking, he rushed to call the attending doctor right away. After performing a very thorough checkup, the doctor had a look of shock. He admitted with disbelief that she had been in a coma for months. They tried every single medical treatment imaginable, but absolutely nothing worked. Now her limbs were reacting. The doctor asked him what he just did. Seeing the doctor get extremely serious, his face turned red with embarrassment. He admitted he did not do much, just whispering sweet conjugal talk. Hearing this, Dr. Percival suddenly looked like he had a massive epiphany. He nodded and said since those words were highly effective, he must continue. Spending a lot of time talking to her might help wake her up. Could this simple chatting actually work? He wondered if she could hear him. He was ecstatic. Only if Serafina woke up could his childhood dream come true. Dr. Percival confirmed that her bodily functions actually were not severely damaged. The real issue was that she simply had lost her will to live. If they could reignite her fight to survive, her chances were incredibly high. After sending the doctor off, he grabbed Serafina's hand once again to try. He recalled how she only reacted when his mother was mentioned earlier. He remembered that her only reaction happened when he mentioned his mother. He quickly started rambling about all sorts of topics to test her. But nothing worked this time, forcing him to change the subject. He whispered about how her mother originally found him and looked pitiful. Since he was desperately short on cash, he agreed to marry her. But in reality, he was secretly extremely happy deep inside his heart. She remained just as incredibly beautiful as when they were little kids. Saying that, he pressed her hand against his own warm cheek. His absolute greatest wish was to become a real, loving married couple. Right after those words left his mouth, her finger twitched again. You might think he is shameless, but this weird tactic actually worked. He jokingly warned her that plenty of beautiful young girls were drooling over him. If she did not wake up soon, some other lucky woman would get him. His perfectly muscular body would only end up being touched by other women. The more he teased, the faster her fingers began twitching. Observing this, he laughed secretly and pushed the teasing even further. His words grew bolder as he reminded her she was 40. He teasingly wondered if her private needs would be exceptionally strong. He confidently bragged that he was strong enough for multiple rounds a night. He finished his speech with a gentle, playful squeeze of her hand. Eventually, a nurse walked inside, and he knew it was time to leave. He gave some final instructions and stepped outside the quiet hospital room. For once, he decided to order a nice ride home. After all, the mother's deposit of $100,000 had arrived. Sitting in the back seat of the car, he still felt completely dazed. He originally just wanted to please his mother, never expecting this marriage. He wondered how his mother would react when she found out, but right as he thought of her, her phone call actually came through. The moment he picked up, a relentless barrage of scolding hit him. Timmy next door was already raising his second kid, while Calen still could not find a girlfriend. He laughed out. Sheer amusement, he could not find a girlfriend. Not only did he have one, she was his mother's bestie, and they even had a marriage certificate, if he was not worried about getting skinned alive by his mother on the street. He really wanted to blurt it out and give her a massive shock. After a few seconds of silence, he suddenly thought of something and spoke with an impatient tone. Mom, just stop setting him up on blind dates. If she actually cared, she should introduce him to a sugar mommy. He seriously did not want to work hard anymore. His mother on the other end of the line was completely baffled. After freezing for a split second, she started scolding him again, telling him to get lost and asking where she could find him a sugar mommy. Hearing this, Calen flashed a wide grin, mentioning her many classmates and besties. Surely there was a single one who was successful in her career, right? Just introduce him to a pretty one and they were good. His mother was fuming, saying her classmates who married early were almost grandmas by now. He asked what if one of those female classmates maintained her great figure exceptionally well and was still single. Rather than letting someone else get the bargain, why not let her own biological son have it? She dismissed him as dreaming daytime delusions. Even if there was one, it would never be his turn. He pushed, asking what if there really was. If there was, she joked that he had better strike fast and she would not stop him. His mother on the other end was so worked up, she spoke with aggressive sarcasm. Hearing her reach her limit, he immediately hung up the phone. Then, smirking widely, he saved the call recording. Talk about playing the long game. He silently told his sweet mother not to blame him for being sneaky, who told her to actually have a beautiful, single female classmate. Early the next morning, after a quick wash, he rushed to the hospital, but his front foot had barely stepped inside when the old lady's phone call came in. She thanked Calen profusely, saying the doctor saw Serafina's finger move yesterday, calling it a fantastic start. Alora's voice was filled with sheer excitement. Calen quickly told her not to say that, as he was the one who should be thanking her. He spoke from the bottom of his heart. After all, the old lady had not only given him a $100,000 deposit, but also gifted him a gorgeous wife. Even though she was currently lying in bed, he believed everything would get better soon. Alora never expected the treatment to work this well on the very first day, so she would have to trouble him much more from now on. As long as Serafina could truly recover, he could ask for any amount of money he wanted. Alora's voice was incredibly emotional, as Dr. Percival's words had given her renewed hope. Calen reassured her that he was already at the hospital, plus he was Serafina's husband now, making her care his absolute responsibility. She repeated the word good 3 times in a row, happily stating that she had not misjudged him back. Then officially entrusting Serafina to him from now on. After finishing the call with the old lady, a wave of emotion washed over him. He never thought he would be a man with a wife now. After a brief moment of reflection, he arrived at Serafina's room. Stepping in, he greets his sleeping wife, playfully asking if she missed her husband last night. He smoothly sits beside Serafina, holding her small hand while rambling on about his day. After talking to himself for quite a while, he turns toward her, eagerly waiting for some response. Sadly, she remains completely still, just lying there in absolute silence. He refuses to give up, mentioning that his mother called him last night. She is actually Serafina's best friend Beatrice, and she is desperately pushing him to get married. She even demanded that he bring a girlfriend home before the end of the year. Since he kept their marriage a secret, he asks if he should finally tell her. Right as he says this, Serafina's eyelids suddenly twitch on the hospital bed. He grins. The marriage threat actually worked, so he playfully asks if she agrees. Her finger twitches once more, making it look like she genuinely agrees with him. But wait, her finger starts moving incredibly fast, twitching nonstop on the sheets. He bursts out laughing, asking his wife why she is suddenly getting so incredibly anxious. He assures her it was just a joke, and he would never tell his mother yet. He promises to wait. Hearing this, her finger finally calms down. He smiles warmly, finding this legendary woman incredibly interesting and somehow endearing. She did not fear death, yet she seems absolutely terrified of family drama. A solemn thought crosses his mind, and he whispers softly to his sleeping wife. He confesses he does not know what trauma made her lose her will to live. But since they are married now, he refuses to let her give up on life. Stroking Serafina's soft cheek, he promises that they still have a long way to go. He promises her a passionate, happy, and delightfully shameless life together once she wakes. To his absolute delight, Serafina's pale cheeks slowly begin to turn a deep red. Talk about progress, he smiles, deciding to tease her with some doctor's advice. Doctor recommended regular massages to help vegetative patients recover their physical senses. He rolls up his sleeves, ready to start the daily therapy routine right now. For the next 30 minutes, he carefully massages her, following his medical research closely. He exhales a long, tired breath. Wrapping up, he prepares to leave. Right at that moment, Serafina's finger suddenly twitches once again. His heart swells with joy. He whispers that he hates leaving her side too. But today's interview is vital, a hard-won opportunity from his best friend. He needs to work hard and make money so he can properly support her later. He promises to spoil her and feed her well once she finally wakes up. Grabbing his bag, he slips out. When he arrives, his friend demands why he is so late. His best friend Barnaby is already waiting at the meeting spot, looking quite impatient. He blames a traffic jam, while Barnaby asks if he brought his resume. He has it ready, but suddenly forgets the actual name of the company interviewing them. Barnaby says it is Serafina Biological Tech. He freezes instantly. As he stammers the name in disbelief, Barnaby snaps him back to reality. Urging him to hurry, they head inside. 2 hours pass quickly. Walking out of the building, he feels completely defeated. Every other applicant held a doctorate, while they only have master's degrees. As they leave the lobby, someone is watching them from a hidden corner nearby. Removing her sunglasses, a woman dials her phone, asking her aunt to guess who she saw. Later that night, he returns to the hospital, stepping inside the quiet room once more. When Calen enters the hallway, the nurses at the station start teasing him. They ask if he is here to see his wife again, and he admits he is pretty worried. The nurses giggle, covering their mouths in pure amusement. They mock him playfully, asking if he is actually afraid she might run away. Looking at their gossipy faces, he simply smiles and keeps walking. Stepping into the ward, Calen begins massaging Serafina with practiced, gentle care. He softly whispers the happy news that he finally secured a real job. His new role is market researcher at her company, making $8,000 a month. Right after he says this, Serafina's eyelids on the bed suddenly twitch. Absolutely thrilled by this, he stays and chats with her until 9:30 p.m. Next morning, Calen and Barnaby arrive early to begin their first day. They head straight to human resources to handle all of their onboarding paperwork. But the general manager of the entire department personally handles everything. The manager is incredibly friendly and even upgrades their entire deal. He bumps their salary to $12,000 and hands them a private office. Calen sits in his massive chair, looking out through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Watching the busy streets below, a deep, heroic ambition swells within him. He asks if Barnaby's cousin holds an extremely high position in this company. How else could they possibly get treated like absolute royalty on day one? Barnaby coughs nervously, realizing that something is definitely off about all this. He knows his cousin is actually just a completely regular employee working outside. Unaware, Calen happily suggests treating the cousin to a grand dinner to thank him. Barnaby merely twitches his mouth, choosing to keep quiet for the moment. In the end, he decides to say nothing as their training finally begins. By 7 p.m., Barnaby heads back to campus, while Calen rushes to the hospital. He runs like his life depends on it, eager to see his wife. Pushing the ward door open, he immediately asks if his beloved wife missed him. But the moment he steps inside, his face completely freezes in embarrassment. Talk about awkward timing. Serafina's cousin Valerie and Auntie Alora are sitting right there in the room. The old lady had introduced Valerie to Calen during their simple, rushed hospital wedding. They exchange knowing smiles, telling Calen that there is no need to worry. Since they are married, she says the young couple should act naturally. She laughs, jokingly pointing out that she is not some ancient fossil. Valerie agrees, adding that their close bond will help Serafina recover faster. Calen nods sheepishly, still too incredibly embarrassed to lift his hanging head. During their quick chat, they learn he has officially started his new job. This means he can only visit her after finishing his daily shifts. The old lady understandingly tells him to just come whenever he has free time. With those supportive words, she takes Valerie and quietly leaves the room. Left alone, Calen looks at Serafina on the bed and jokingly complains. He playfully whines about the lack of warning when visitors are here. Gently massaging her arms, he keeps up his endless flirty teasing. To his surprise, her pale cheeks turn incredibly red. Seeing this, a wicked, mischievous thought flashes through his mind. Rose in Calen's heart. Hey, beautiful wifey Sarah, can I give you a kiss, if you don't say anything, I'll take it as a yes. After making this bold request, he clearly saw Serafina's body tremble, but Calen threw all caution too. The wind leaned right down and planted a massive loud smack on her soft cheek. After kissing her, he dramatically wiped his mouth like he was savoring a fine meal. Wifey, you smell so good. The very next day during lunch, Barnaby invited his cousin out for a nice Sichuan meal downstairs. Upon learning about the treatment the two of them got, Gideon looked totally down on himself. He had worked his butt off for 4 years and was only making 12,000. How the hell did these two brats do it? Honestly, comparing yourself to others is just painful. Faced with Calen and Barnaby's thanks, he just awkwardly replied, it's nothing. We are all bros. After lunch, the three of them quickly returned to the company to continue working, but right after returning to their desks, a female secretary suddenly knocked and walked in. Calen, Barnaby, come here with me for a second. Manager Sterling from the marketing department is looking for you. Half an hour later, Barnaby and Calen returned to the office completely bewildered. Barnaby couldn't help but complain, is this corporate world always this crazy? The head of the department calls them in, showers them with compliments, and then privately invites them to dinner tonight. Calen was equally confused. Looks like they can only go tonight and test the waters. However, during dinner that night, Barnaby and Calen tried to probe manager Sterling several times, but he blocked them with the excuse of building bonds, completely ignoring actual work. In the end, it wasn't until after downing several bottles of foreign liquor that Sterling finally chuckled and revealed the purpose of this dinner. There was a very rare business trip training opportunity, and he decided to generously offer those spots to them. Upon learning the reasons, Calen cursed him out internally. Isn't this delaying him from going to the hospital to see his wife? But outwardly, he still expressed his gratitude along with Barnaby. By the time this long-winded dinner finally ended, it was already past 10 p.m. Barnaby called a car to head back to campus. Calen, burping with the strong smell of alcohol, stumbled and jogged his way toward the hospital. When the nurse on duty saw him, she immediately showed that gossip-loving look. Calen ignored her and went straight to the ward. Sorry, I'm late today. That manager Sterling at the office seems to have some seriously weird habits. He just wanted him to go on a trip, but made them drink the entire night before telling them. Speaking softly, Calen cupped Serafina's cheeks and planted another loud kiss on her face. Right after, he gently pushed her over and half lay on the edge of the bed. Wifey, I don't want to leave tonight. Let me sleep with you, okay? Perhaps the alcohol was kicking in and he felt his head spin, subconsciously pulling her close into his arms. Then, wrapped in a fragrant, soft embrace, he fell asleep. Who knows how much time passed? Half dreaming and half awake, he felt someone pushing him, and a remarkably gentle voice rang in his ear, calling him a brat for crushing her hair. The next day he was woken up by the nurse. I can see you're truly starved for affection. Patient's condition is so unstable right now. Hearing this, Calen's face totally fell. Worse than crying, Calen stammers that he just drank way too much last night, but the nurse gives him a knowing look, saying even as husbands and wives, they cannot fool around. After all, the poor woman is still in a vegetative state. Calen quickly realizes that trying to explain will only make things look worse. He just gives up entirely once the nurse finally leaves with her utility cart. He turns to look at Serafina with a face full of shame. He is completely sober now, and thinking back makes him realize how absurd his actions were last night. After all, Serafina is a vegetable. How could she survive being tossed around? What he did was inhuman. After finishing his reflection, he whispers to her, "Wifey, he has to leave. This sudden business trip might keep him away for a good 2 or 3 days." He plants a quick kiss, then reluctantly leaves. When he arrives at the company, Barnaby is already waiting in the office, demanding to know where on earth Calen vanished to for the whole night. Calen rolls his eyes. Adult business. Barnaby shrugs it off, but suddenly turns serious. "Calen, why do you think Sterling treats them well?" To rope them in, obviously. Did Barnaby forget yesterday's warning? His cousin warned that since the chairman has been missing for months now, the entire company has split into several rival factions. The corporate situation is highly unstable, so they should not choose sides yet. Calen agrees Sterling must be avoided. Otherwise, people might think they belong to his faction. Watch how this backfires. 3 days later at the company, Biological Tech manager Sterling sits in his office chair, looking completely miserable. He looks at his secretary beside him, completely baffled by recent events. He tried so hard to get close to those 2 rookies, just to flatter the old lady. He treated them to dinner and even handed them a highly coveted, rare business trip opportunity just to win them over. Yet ever since that day, they have been deliberately keeping their distance. His elegant secretary Fiona quietly crosses her legs. After a moment of silence, sudden realization strikes her. She believes they are secret spies. They were likely sent by the old lady herself to keep watch on them. Spies with high standards would definitely ignore minor favors. They clearly have very high standards, meaning he needs to make a much bigger effort. Sterling nods, convinced the old lady has made her first move. He thinks he knows exactly what to do next. Meanwhile, down at the train station, Calen and Barnaby return after completing their tiring trip. Exhausted, Calen complains about the journey. He rubs his temples, insisting that the training was no easy gig. Barnaby scoffs. 5-star hotels, great clients. They even got to network with several prominent clients along the way. His cousin said others would gladly fight to the death for this. He knew that this job was actually a pretty sweet gig. In comparison, though, he much preferred to spend those 3 days keeping Auntie Serafina, rather his wife. Serafina company. Right then, Barnaby rubs his belly and says they should not focus on work right now, suggesting they find a nice spot to eat. He waves his hand to decline, telling his friend to go ahead alone. His mind is currently completely filled with Serafina. 3 days apart felt like 3 long years, but just as he is preparing to rush to the hospital, his mom's call comes in. Like the Grim Reaper knocking on his door, she scolds him, saying Auntie Wang found a girl for him yesterday and wants him to meet her. Another blind date. He almost wants to hang up. He explains he just started working and is too busy to date, saying he simply does not have the time. She counters that the girl's workplace is incredibly close to his, so she will have her wait downstairs for him. He is completely speechless. Did she forget his rule? Unless she is a gorgeous single older woman, she shouldn't introduce any young girls. His mom laughs at him for taking a joke so seriously, adding that the girl is incredibly beautiful and even works as a flight attendant. Still, he refuses to go on. And he blind dates. He decides to stop wasting breath and speaks his true thoughts very directly, but his mom insists he must go, sending over the contact card. Right away, she hangs up immediately after, and his phone buzzes right on cue. With the contact card his mother shared, he clicks on it to take a quick look. Profile reading crystal available worldwide. He honestly questions if his mom even looked at what she was sending him, arriving at the hospital the moment he steps into the hallway in front of the ward. Everyone at the nurse's station looks over. Their gazes collectively lock onto him with incredibly teasing, almost mocking expressions. He feels pretty weirded out by this, asking them what they are looking at. One young nurse starts to say that someone forbade them from speaking, but she quickly shuts her mouth. He stays silent, though his curiosity is totally piqued. Could it be that Serafina actually woke up? With that thought, he quickens his pace toward her room. Inside, Serafina is still lying quietly on the bed, her breathing steady and looking much the same. However, he keenly notices that, compared to before his business trip, her pale cheeks are now noticeably rosier, losing that thin, sickly look she had when they first met. Her entire body seems to be exuding a deep, growing womanly charm. Seeing everything moving in such a great direction, his lips curl into a gentle, warm smile. He whispers, asking if she missed him during those 3 days. He confesses he missed her terribly. Stepping forward, he begins to gently massage and relax her stiff muscles, but the moment his hands touch her, he realizes something is definitely different. Her body feels warm, just like a normal, healthy person. Did she actually wake up? To test his theory after finishing the therapy, he boldly tries an incredibly teasing move, lightly and slowly, dragging his fingers across her pale, delicate neck and soft cheeks. Unsurprisingly, her body begins to tremble slightly and uncontrollably. Her cheeks flush a deep, intense red like sunset clouds. Seeing this, his heart swells with pure joy. He knows his gorgeous wife has definitely regained some consciousness. Even if she is not fully awake yet, she can feel him. Could it? Maybe she doesn't know how to face him, so she's deliberately playing asleep. But watching her act like this, it only makes him want to tease her more. After finishing her massage, he lies down right next to her. Serafina's body instantly tenses up. Ignoring it, he pulls her close. Gently pressing his face against hers, he greedily breathes in her scent. With a playful smile, he whispers that her breath is just too sweet. Lately, he recalls hearing that 2 lovers can survive on shared oxygen. He used to think that kind of talk was just cheesy garbage. But after meeting her, he finally realized it might actually be true. If he didn't have to work to support her, he'd stay glued 24 hours a day. And yet, as he speaks, his playful tone suddenly shifts to something softer. Secretly, he admits he is getting worried about what happens when she wakes. Whispering softly, he begs her never to abandon him. Then, he leans in. He kisses her gently right on the lips. Her body goes stiff again. But then a soft sound escapes her lips, catching him off guard. She clumsily, stiffly starts to return the kiss, pressing back against him. His heart leaps. His beautiful wife is actually kissing him back. Does this mean she has finally accepted him? At least she's not resisting. He's absolutely beaming inside. If this is real, it is a dream. Deep down, he always knew Serafina would wake up one day. But ever since, he's been constantly stressing over whether she'll actually stay. He is terrified that once she opens her eyes, she won't want him. She is his mom's best friend. Most people would find that pretty hard to accept. But her stiff response to his kiss proved his dream might actually have a shot. Maybe she just needed a little more time to process all of this. Once the long kiss ended, he licked his lips with a grin. He called her wifey, whispering that this was officially their very first kiss. He absolutely loved it and wanted to kiss her every single day from now on. Right as his voice dropped, Serafina's entire body trembled. Was it resistance or pleasure? He could not tell, smiling as he got up. Checking his phone, he noted that it was already past 9 p.m. If he did not head back soon, his dorm doors would lock him out. But soon, he would move out to be with her 24 hours a day. Planting one last kiss on her cheek, he got ready to leave. Talk about bad timing, his mother suddenly called him on the phone. She was still rushing him to get married, making his head throb. After hesitating for a split second, he decided to confess everything. He told her he actually had a girlfriend, glancing back at the bed. His mother was highly skeptical, asking why he had kept it a secret. She demanded to know if he was trying to trick her yet again. He insisted she was right there, though she was a little bit special. He admitted he had kept quiet out of fear she would disapprove. But a second later, his mother said something that caught him completely off guard. She wanted to come over immediately to see this new girlfriend for herself. Makes him involuntarily shiver. He knows her personality, especially that massive desire for control. His mom is incredibly intense, especially when it comes to him finding a girlfriend. If she discovered his girlfriend was actually his wife and her long-lost bestie, Mom would Probably delete his existence and start over with a new kid. Terrified of this, he worried that Serafina would hear things she shouldn't. He hurriedly ran out of the room half an hour later, using the excuse that their relationship was not stable. He finally convinced his mom not to visit right away. His mom was also worried that rushing over abruptly would scare the poor girl, so she agreed. Only then did he let out a massive sigh of relief, knowing this was just temporary. Who knows, maybe in a little while, his mom would demand to meet her. Thinking about the moment his mom discovers her bestie turned into her daughter-in-law, he couldn't help but shudder. But to fully realize his childhood dream, he still had to carry through with his original plan. He needed to speed up making Serafina accept him, while simultaneously managing his mom's psychological expectations as much as possible. If the raw rice could be cooked into a done deal by consummating the marriage, that would be even better. That way, even if his mom couldn't accept it, she'd have no choice. Next day, Sunday, Barnaby and he went near the company and rented 2 small apartments. As for why they needed 2 apartments, it was because that rascal Barnaby was preparing to move in with his PhD girlfriend after signing the contract. Barnaby went to find his girl while he prepared to head to the hospital. At this moment, his mood was absolutely fantastic. Renting a place off campus meant he didn't have to go back to the dorm every day, even if he wanted to spend the whole night at the hospital keeping his wife Serafina company. It was completely doable, but when he arrived at her room, sitting by the bed was a white-haired old lady. Just as he thought he had walked into the wrong room, nurse pushed a cart in. Seeing him, she looked confused. "Why are you here again?" His wife already checked out. "Wait, what? Checked out?" His eyes widened in pure disbelief. "Did you not know?" The little nurse looked genuinely surprised. For a moment he had no idea how to answer. After pondering for a while, he gritted his teeth and protested. His wife had been bedridden for so long, so even if she woke up, it was impossible to check out immediately after waking up, right? But she actually woke up 4 days ago, the night he stayed. Hearing that she really woke up, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So, when did she do the discharge paperwork? Apparently, it was just this morning. It was her cousin who came to process it. Her body had not fully recovered yet. Why didn't they stop her? He felt angry, partly because she didn't tell him, partly because she was ignoring her own health. They tried stopping her, but her attitude was incredibly stubborn. She insisted her family push her out in a wheelchair. After saying this, the little nurse muttered under her breath that those who knew would say she checked out, but others would think she was running away. If the nurse hadn't said that, he'd be fine. But the moment she said it, he instantly understood what happened. It was definitely because last night, right in front of her, he told his mom on the phone that he had a girlfriend, and she must have heard his mom was coming to see her. She definitely took it seriously, which was why she fled, ignoring her health vanished overnight. Seeing Calen frozen in place, the nurse quickly added that his wife's bodily functions had almost recovered. Resting at home would bring a full recovery. Calen snapped out of his shock and sighed in relief. He asked if she had Serafina's contact details, making the nurse pause for a second. She rolled her eyes, calling him a funny guy for asking that about his own wife. He left the hospital shortly after and just stood at the busy intersection, completely lost on where to go next. He had already tried calling Alora a few times, but none of those calls went through, leaving him with a heavy, empty chest. He had originally planned to spend the weekend helping Serafina recover, massaging her muscles and keeping her clean. Now, those plans were entirely shattered. And Alora, the only person who could connect him to Serafina, was completely unreachable. As Calen wandered aimlessly down the street, his phone suddenly started ringing. It was Alora. She asked if this was Calen and introduced herself. He quickly greeted her, his heart hammering against his ribs. His voice shook slightly as Alora admitted she could not keep hiding the truth. She confessed that Serafina had actually woken up 4 whole days ago, but she had forbidden Alora from telling him. However, something got into her today. Even though she was still pretty weak, Serafina insisted on checking out, leaving them with no choice but to take her home. Laura hoped Calen would not blame her. Blame her? He was far too happy for that. He blurted out his deepest wish, asking if he could see her. There was a heavy silence on the other end of the line for several long seconds. Then Alora completely dodged the question, simply thanking him for his dedication. Calen desperately repeated his plea, but she sidestepped the topic once more. promising to transfer his remaining 900 Susan dollars in compensation later. Hearing her cold, strictly business tone made his heart sink. Was it really over between him and Serafina just like that? Talk about a heartbreaking rejection, but Calen is not backing down just yet. He told Alora he did not want the remaining $900,000. Alora asked why. In utter shock, Calen offered his honest truth. After spending every single day caring for Serafina, he had fallen completely in love. He wanted a real chance to see her. The phone fell silent again. After a long pause, Alora spoke in a quiet, tired voice. She warned him not to casually throw around words like love and affection. True feelings were not cheap. Besides, was he sure about refusing $900,000? He was clearly short on cash, but Calen insisted he truly loved Serafina. All Calen wanted was to know her location, seeing his unshakable resolve. Laura finally sighed and asked him seriously if he was absolutely sure about this. After all, Serafina was a whole 20 years older than him. Sensing Alora softening, Calen threw all his cards on the table. He promised to explain everything if they actually ended up together in the future. The old lady gasped, then agreed to pass his sincere message along to her. She told him to wait just a moment before hanging up the phone. Laura turned to look at Serafina sitting right beside her on the couch. Serafina's eyes were wide as saucers. Alora noted that she must have heard everything. Laura suggests they try dating, but Serafina immediately shakes her head in refusal. She protests that with their huge age gap, she could practically be his mother. She worries what would other people think if they actually ended up together. Yet despite her protests, she cannot stop picturing the moment he kissed her. Within seconds, her face flushes bright red, just like a ripe apple. Watching this, Alora suddenly recalls the last words he told her. Something is definitely off. There is clearly something secret going on between them. Laura keeps quiet for now, calmly pointing out that dating only concerns the two of them. She asks why her daughter cares so much about what other people might say. Serafina snaps out of it, begging her mother to stop because he is simply too young. But let's be real, we all know that age gap is just a convenient excuse. The real issue is that he is the son of her best friend, Beatrice. Laura sighs, offering to reject him and call a lawyer to sign the divorce papers. She pulls out her phone to make the call right then and there. But the instant it connects, Serafina snatches the phone away and hangs up. She begs her mother not to rush and to give her some time to think. When Alora initiated that call, a sharp wave of sadness suddenly hit Serafina. Seeing this, Alora does not push her, quietly observing her daughter with a knowing smile. Serafina blushes under that silent gaze, but her stubborn mouth refuses to back down. She claims that divorcing him so quickly feels a bit too cruel to him. She suggests telling him they should avoid seeing each other for a short while. She almost suggests 30 days, but quickly corrects herself to 10 days instead. They need 10 days to think it over. Alora watches her daughter find an out. Seeing her daughter act like an ostrich, Alora simply smiles and nods. Then she dials his number. He answers immediately, incredibly anxious for her verdict. But Alora's voice remains perfectly calm and steady as she speaks. She explains that Serafina still struggles with the age gap between the two of them. She hopes they can take 10 days apart to avoid making rash decisions. 10 days, hearing this, his already anxious heart remains suspended in painful limbo. He assures her that despite his youth, she has absolutely nothing to worry about. He is about to finish his master's degree and is no reckless kid. Alora feels relieved hearing this and gets ready to hang up, but he stops her. He begins rattling off a long list of health tips for Serafina's recovery. After listening to him ramble on for over 2 minutes with no sign of stopping, the old lady interrupts him, caught completely between laughter and tears. Hanging up, Alora grins, asking her daughter if she heard all of that. She teases that her young husband truly holds her deep in his heart. Serafina refuses to admit it, but the faint smile on her lips betrays her. She playfully complains that her mother is nagging, but she cannot hide her joy. This playful bickering makes Alora feel as if they returned to the years before the Depression. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, he makes his way back to his dorm. He was supposed to pack his things to move into the new apartment. But right now, he cannot find a single ounce of energy to do anything. Talk about dramatic, this separation feels like a painful prison sentence to him. He sits there staring blankly until 5 p.m. when a message from his cousin Chloe arrives. Cousin, I am at your campus. Hurry up and get out here to buy me dinner. Chloe is 18, just a freshman at the neighboring Normal University. Since both schools are right next door, she constantly hangs out on his campus. When he finally shows up, he finds her glaring with pure resentment. She demands to know why he made the campus beauty wait so long. He looks around before staring down. Where exactly is this campus beauty? She puffs out her cheeks, claiming it is obviously her. He asks what kind of campus beauty is only 1.5 meters tall. Furious, she snaps that she is actually 1.53 meters. He stops teasing her and heads to a nearby barbecue spot. Plates of sizzling grilled meat pile up, and Chloe gulps greedily. She gasps in absolute shock, asking if he scored a rich sugar mommy. It is the first time she has ever seen him act so generous. He tells her to cut the nonsense and reveal her real motive. Chloe knows his tight budget too well to demand free meals. There is an 80% chance his mother sent her on a secret mission. She plays with the food, claiming she just missed her cousin. He does not waste words. Instead, he pulls out his phone to transfer some cash. A $500 transfer instantly flips her entire attitude around. She confesses that his mother paid her $200 to investigate. Seeing her sell out his mother this quickly, he just shakes his head. He knocks her gently on the head for being a little traitor. She pushes him away, complaining that she is already too short. He rolls his eyes, demanding to know what she actually found out. She confidently guesses that his new girlfriend must have dumped him. He asks how she knows, though it is not exactly a breakup. He simply cannot see Serafina, which makes him look miserable. She points out that he looks sadder than the weeping mummy Amumu. The famously sad champion from League of Legends, she begs him for details. She wants to know what his ex-girlfriend actually looks like. Chloe fires off questions about her major and looks like a machine gun. He glares at her to make her stop, refusing to say more. Chloe pouts and threatens to make up stories for his mother. Before she can finish, he cuts her off and surrenders. He sends another $500 transfer to buy her absolute silence. Her eyes narrow with joy as she asks what she should report. He tells her to report that his girlfriend is gorgeous and mature. She should also say they just started dating, making things unstable. He uses this excuse to slowly prepare his mother for the truth. After dinner, he walks back alone toward his college dorm. He passes by the small grove that serves as a popular dating spot. Feeling a sudden wave of irritation, he decides to cause some harmless trouble. He screams into the dark trees that the strict school inspectors are coming. Panicked couples immediately scatter from the shadows in absolute terror. He watches them run, a satisfied smirk finally returning to his face. The tension fades and he feels much better. Soon, his mother calls again. This time her voice is surprisingly soft. He grins, realizing his plan worked. The cash he gave his sister, Chloe, was not wasted. Clearly his mother is calm now, but he still plays completely dumb. He asks if Chloe mentioned his girlfriend. His mother hesitates. What did she say? Well, Chloe bragged that her brother found a really pretty girl. And she looks way more mature than him. Hearing this, his heart skips a beat. Quickly recovering, he pretends to be annoyed. He grumbles about Chloe blabbing his secrets. How could she just spill everything? Then he mentions his girlfriend is slightly older. Just a tiny, tiny bit. He asks if she would mind. She sighs. Why would she mind? An older woman will take better care of him. Satisfied, he makes a quick excuse to hang up the phone. He smoothly saves the call recording. He has prepared so much for his wife. He just hopes all his hard work does not go to waste. He heads out to work. Entering the office, he finds a total clown show. Barnaby is leaning back in his chair, with his legs propped on the desk. He is casually flipping through documents and humming. Our guy frowns at the sight. He warns him to stop acting so arrogant at work, but Barnaby just smirks. What is there to fear? They have a private office, so anyone coming will knock first. Honestly, that makes total sense, so he copies his friend and props his own legs up. He has to admit, this pose is incredibly comfortable. He starts browsing the company documents. But as he lazily flips through the papers, something catches his eye. He suddenly lets out a loud shout, startling Barnaby so badly that he falls. Barnaby falls from his chair, while our guy clutches the page in absolute shock. He stares at the document like he saw a ghost. Wait, is this for real? The corporate chairman is actually named Serafina, just like his stunning wife. His mind is a chaotic mess of mixed feelings. He tries calling his mother-in-law. But the call will not connect at all. It seems he cannot reach her yet. He will not be able to contact them until the 10-day period is over. Right as he lets out a heavy sigh, a loud commotion erupts outside the office. He asks around and learns that the CEO is arriving for a surprise inspection. Without wasting a single second, he rushes out to see what is happening. A crowd has gathered around a woman in a sharp white tailored suit. He takes a closer look and realizes this woman is not his wife, Serafina. He lets out a massive sigh of relief, glad there is no giant status gap. But as he turns to leave, the woman addresses the crowd. She announces that she is acting on behalf of the absent chairman. They are to address her as CEO Valerie. Back in his office, his head spins. He cannot stop thinking about Serafina, especially the way she pretended to sleep. Blushing while letting him kiss her. 10 days. He still has to wait 10 days. To get his final verdict. Honestly, this wait is the absolute ultimate torture. The more he dwells on it, the worse he feels. He slams his desk in frustration. He decides to take the afternoon off to clear his head, expecting a struggle. But the approval process is shockingly smooth. HR manager Sterling is polite as ever. He signs off on the leave immediately, without even asking for a reason. They kindly asked if he needed help. Calen laughed bitterly. He missed his wife, no one could help with that, after leaving. He hailed a cab, destination, Nengrin Temple. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Serafina stared blankly at a book in her hands. She completely missed her cousin Valerie, walking right up to her. Valerie snatched the book away, playfully asking if the story was bad. Serafina jumped. "Cousin, I am not done reading." Valerie smirked, teasing her. She pointed out that Serafina had been on this page all morning. "You are not looking at a book, you are picturing his face." Serafina blushed instantly. "Cousin, what nonsense, I was not looking at him." "Wait, who said anything about Calen?" She completely gave herself away. Valerie leaned in with a mischievous smile, loving every single second. She offered to take Serafina to the one place she secretly wanted to go. Serafina's eyes sparkled, but she shyly looked down, asking where they were going. Valerie playfully poked her forehead. "Didn't you always love the temple? You said it was peaceful, or do you want to see a certain someone?" Serafina cut her off, her cheeks turning bright red. "Enough, cousin. If you say one more word, I am seriously going to ignore you." Serafina was nearly 40. Her pure heart kept her looking incredibly young. And acting spoiled like this made her look exactly like a young girl. Valerie burst out laughing, promising to finally stop teasing her cousin. She recalled going to Nengrin Temple with Auntie to pray for her. Now that she was awake, they needed to fulfill that sacred vow. Nengrin Temple sat peacefully on Bayan Mountain, far in the eastern city. Wishes made there always came true, making the place incredibly popular. Soon, Valerie brought Serafina right to the foot of the mountain. She gently pushed her wheelchair up the quiet path toward the temple. Serafina closed her eyes, taking in the fresh air with a smile. She admitted she had been foolish before, never appreciating simply being alive. Now life felt beautiful. Valerie heard this inside, it was true. She remembered when her aunt wanted to find Serafina a partner. She thought it was a joke to wash away the bad luck. But looking back now, it was absolutely the correct move for her future. Valerie shook her head, tossing all those worries out of her mind. As long as her cousin was happy now, it was completely worth it. The two sisters chatted happily as they walked together along the path. Before long, the grand main gates of Nengrin Temple came into view. Just then, talk about perfect timing, Valerie spotted a familiar silhouette. She pointed him out, asking if that was her little husband. Serafina panicked, begging Valerie to turn around before he spotted them. Yet she could not help but search the crowd herself, curious. Since their marriage, she had never actually seen his face in person. She had only seen his small photo on the official marriage certificate. Seeing the real person in the flesh was a completely different thing. Her heart raced, full of mixed feelings for this unexpected husband. Her feelings are actually pretty complicated. A quiet affection has already started growing. But the gap in their status and age makes her hesitate, holding her back. She is unable to take that step forward, just as she looks around. Searching for him, Valerie starts pushing the wheelchair, getting ready to leave. Serafina panics. "Cousin, what are you doing? Didn't you tell me to go?" Valerie rolls her eyes in exasperation, hearing her cousin say that. Serafina bites her lower lip. After a long silence, she stammers out, I want to secretly look at him first." Valerie smiles knowingly. pushing the wheelchair toward the temple back door. Meanwhile, he is standing right before the Buddha statue with his eyes closed and hands clasped. He has been suffering from constant anxiety lately. He is deeply grateful that Serafina woke up so fast, yet terrified she won't want to continue their marriage, trapped in an unbearable worry he cannot ease. He can only place his desperate hopes on the divine, just outside. Serafina is anxiously tugging at Valerie's arm. Cousin, get a little closer. I want to hear what he is saying. Valerie looks helpless, quietly steering the wheelchair to hide just outside the main hall. Then his voice drifts out. Buddha, please bless my wife Serafina so she won't divorce me. Bless our marriage to be happy, beautiful, so we grow old together. Hearing this, Valerie bends down, giving her cousin a teasing, sly grin. Serafina's face instantly flushes bright red. She quickly raises her hands to cover her face, yet secretly peeks through her fingers to watch him. Seeing his sincere, devout silhouette, she suddenly remembers the things he said back when he was taking care of her in the hospital. All that talk about having 8-pack abs, doing 100 push-ups, and going multiple rounds a night. Her face feels like it is burning. She hurriedly tugs at Valerie's clothes, pleading with her to leave. But right at that moment, his voice rings out once more. If my wife absolutely insists on a divorce, then I beg you to bless her, so her entire future will be completely peaceful and happy. Honestly, seeing him put her happiness first like that is incredibly touching. Talk about a guy who really deserves a happy ending. Meanwhile, inside the solemn and majestic Great Hero Hall, his voice sounds deeply devout. Valerie freezes, looking down at Serafina only to find her cousin is already crying silently. Seeing that he is about to stand up, Valerie quickly wheels her into the side hall to hide. Silly girl. Why are you crying? Serafina does not hear a thing, staring blankly out of the room. Only after he walks far away does she finally whisper, cousin, let us go back. Valerie looks surprised. Aren't we burning incense anymore? Tears still glisten in Serafina's eyes, but a smile touches her lips. What I came to ask for, I already have. Back home, the elderly Alora is waiting anxiously. Seeing them return, she rushes over to greet them. Sarah, did you have fun out there today? But Serafina's mind is completely consumed by those words he had whispered. She does not even hear what her mother is saying, making Alora what actually happened with Sarah. Valerie recounted the entire afternoon, finishing with a heavy sigh. Not just Sarah, even he was shocked. Alora felt the same way, but before she could speak, Sarah took the initiative and spoke with absolute gravity, declaring that she wanted to see him right now, asking if she had thought it through. Alora already knew her daughter's mind, but still wanted to confirm it one last time. Sarah's eyes sparkled with absolute resolve as she confirmed she had. Alora patted her head, then dialed his number. When he received the call, he was rolling round in bed like a pancake. Seeing her caller ID on the screen, his entire body jolted upward as he scrambled to answer, asking if Sarah was looking for him. Alora had the phone on speaker, glancing at Sarah beside her, whose ears were perked up. Sarah pouted, tugging at her mother's hem and shaking it gently. Alora smiled dotingly, refusing to beat around the bush, saying directly that Sarah wanted to try getting to know him. Hearing this through the line, his sheer excitement is practically glowing. Now get this, Alora nodded, deciding they did not even have to wait out the 10 days. She promised to arrange a meeting and send over the address soon after. That was fantastic news. He practically jumped 3 feet high, far too thrilled to control himself, immediately asking the old lady all sorts of questions about Sarah's preferences. Listening to his endless nagging, Alora glanced at Sarah, smiling as she told him he could slowly learn everything in the future. Before hanging up the call, he stared down at the dark screen of his phone, froze for a second, and burst into ecstatic, manic laughter. Meanwhile, over at the Vance family home, Sarah was also sitting on pins and needles, nervously asking her mom to delay the meeting. She kept looking in the mirror, her face unable to hide her deep anxiety, wondering if her complexion looked terrible or if her wheelchair would make him find her repulsive. Valerie curled her lip, pointing out that if he truly found her repulsive, he would have taken the $900,000 and run when Alora offered it. Her cousin was right. Alora chimed in to agree, adding that her daughter was so beautiful, just like a heavenly fairy, so nobody could ever find her repulsive. Sarah was amused, a blush rising on her face, making her already exquisite features look even more stunning. thinking about how they were going to interact as husband and wife. Honestly, you can practically feel her heartbeat racing. That nervous energy welled up in her eyes. The next day at 1 p.m. inside a coffee shop, he checked the time on his phone, realizing there were still 2.5 hours before their meeting. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sarah was equally nervous, wondering why they were renting an apartment when she had her own properties, and asking if her dress suited her or looked too plain. She worried her lipstick was too bright, feeling like it did not suit her. Sarah sat at the vanity table, chattering away, her face carrying a quiet anticipation and shyness she had not even noticed. Alora and Valerie exchanged a knowing look, laughing in unison as they assured Sarah she looked absolutely fine. Telling her not to be nervous, they reminded her he was specifically chosen by Alora, so he had to be good. Valerie held Sarah's hand, mentioning the no normal apartment, since all the properties under her name are either villas or massive luxury flats in the city center. That is just too suspicious, but this place in Jinchejao is centrally located, not too far or too close to the company. It is absolutely perfect. Serafina frowns slightly. Are you guys worried about that? Exactly, Valerie nods. Although Calen seems like a really decent guy, she still needs to be careful. It is best not to let him know her true identity for now, although Serafina is sweet and pure. She is not a naive, foolish girl. She agrees right away. She understands that time reveals a person's true colors better than anyone. Knowing they're running late, Valerie hurries Serafina out the door. At that moment, Calen is checking his watch dozens of times a minute, thinking about how he is about to meet his precious wife. He is too excited to contain himself. This anxious behavior makes a couple sitting right next to him very curious. Blind date, they ask. Calen shakes his head. Not a blind date, waiting for his wife. Waiting for your wife and dressing up this formal. Did you do something wrong to beg for forgiveness? Impossible. Calen smiles. He and his wife are actually doing the marriage first, fall in love later trope. Hearing this, the young couple laughs so hard they lean all the way back. Marriage first, love later. That is incredibly trendy. This brief distraction actually helps ease Caden's nerves, but as the agreed time approaches, instead of Serafina, Calen gets a phone call from the old lady. Hello, Auntie, are you here yet? Alora looks at Serafina beside her, smiling helplessly. Come to this address, she says. Sarah is waiting. This will be your home from now on. After hanging up, Valerie checks her watch. Auntie, we should head out. Let those two talk alone. Saying that, Valerie pulls the old lady out the door, but right out in the hallway, Valerie leads Laura right into the apartment next door. With a mischievous grin, Valerie reveals her smug master plan. Auntie, do not worry, I have set it all up. The soundproofing here is terrible, so we can easily hear everything they say. Meanwhile, in the apartment next door, Serafina just stares intensely at the front door, her heart practically leaping out of her chest. From now on, she will live here with her new husband, interacting like a married couple and doing all the intimate things couples are supposed to do. Serafina covers her face, completely overwhelmed with anticipation. Honestly, who can blame her? She is dying of embarrassment. Meanwhile, Calen has already stepped into the elevator, constantly giving himself quiet mental pep talks, knowing how he prepared everything. He nods solemnly. Wife, here he comes. Hey man, are you crazy? Seeing Calen act so incredibly formal for his wife, another guy stares. Calen lifts his chin. Can he not look formal for his wife? He tells him that his wife is an absolute angel. What a psycho. With a ding, the doors open. Coincidentally, that same guy lives on this floor too, following Calen out of the elevator with a laugh, demanding to see this so-called gorgeous fairy wife. Calen glares at him. She is far out of your league. But right then, the stranger's eyes suddenly freeze. His gaze locks straight onto someone standing right behind Calen. Calen is still actively lecturing him, warning that even if he sees her in the Calen firmly warns the neighbor that she belongs to him, but a sudden sound stops him. A sweet giggle rings out. He freezes and slowly turns to see his wife. It is Serafina. She smiles warmly, her beauty shining brighter than ever. After spending time resting and recovering, she looks completely breathtaking right now. Serafina had heard his voice from inside the house. She originally planned to wait, but the familiar sound drew her out. Unable to resist, she rolls her wheelchair outside. Shocked but thrilled, Calen rushes forward to greet her. He asks why she came outside, urging her to go back in. Warning her about bad people out here, he glares fiercely behind him. The neighbor gets a harsh look, but Serafina just giggles at her husband. She points out she is already his wife, regardless of onlookers. Smiling warmly, she greets the neighbor and introduces her husband. Serafina might be incredibly pure, but she is certainly not clueless about people. Since they plan to live here, building good relationships with neighbors is vital. This sudden greeting catches the neighbor completely off guard. Introducing himself as Chad, he offers to help whenever they need. But Calen rejects it. He directly says there is no need. He insists he will look after her himself and pushes her chair. Talk about overprotective, he slams the door shut, making Serafina laugh. Feeling highly embarrassed by her laughter, he hands her the bouquet. He softly praises her smile, but his words only make her blush. If he had stayed quiet, she would be fine, but now she is blushing. She uses the bouquet to cover her face, teasing him. Who goes around boasting like that while warning everyone away? But Calen feels totally justified in his protective nature. Because she is so gorgeous, he must stay on guard. Hearing this intense possessiveness, a sweet warmth fills her. She quietly wonders if this is what falling in love truly feels like. Meanwhile, next door, Alora and Valerie exchange a quiet look. Tears fill their eyes, but they smile with relief. Suddenly, Serafina begins coughing, shattering the peaceful mood. Calen grabs her hand in worry, asking what happened. Alora panics, wanting to rush next door to help. Valerie holds her back, advising they watch how Calen handles things. Alora calms down and listens closely to the sound. Serafina is coughing so hard her face turns bright red. Her chest heaves violently and tears spill from her eyes. Panicked by her state, Calen pulls her directly into his arms. Hearing his heartbeat, she finds safety and slowly calms. Her breathing stabilizes as she rests against him. When she stops coughing, he gently wipes her tears away. Lifting her carefully, he carries her straight to the bedroom. He offers her a glass of water, urging her to drink. But she is far too weak to sit up, so he prepares to help her. He worried about making her uncomfortable, so he simply took a sip. From his cup bent down and kissed her, he carefully passed the water from his mouth into hers. That soft touch, combined with the sweet warm water, made Serafina's eyes snap wide open in an instant. Even though she could feel that this kiss carried absolutely no lust, it still stirred up a massive tsunami in her heart. Just like that, after feeding her more than half a glass of mouth-to-mouth water, Serafina's complexion gradually returned to normal, bringing with it a hint of a blush. He held her hand, looking remorseful, blaming himself for making her laugh when she was already so weak. He even suggested going back to the hospital to get her checked out. He was about to pick her up again, but Serafina pulled his hand back, saying no. She just needed to lie down and asked him to chat with her. Naturally, it was impossible for him to refuse. He nodded immediately. Soon, cheerful laughter rang out from the room again, leaving Alora and Valerie next door listening. With faces full of relief and joy, he had no idea they were eavesdropping. Next door, he just held Serafina's hand, chatting with her about his experiences. Over the years, the smile on Serafina's face never ceased, but she still had not completely recovered. Slowly, she drifted off to sleep. Seeing her eyes closed and her breathing steady, he could not help but whisper to himself, telling her how beautiful she was and wondering what kind of good karma he accumulated in his past life to get this childhood goddess. He actually got to marry her and bring her home, and it felt just like a dream. Since she was willing to get to know him, he wondered if she liked him too. He quietly rambled onto her for a long time, seeing Serafina sleeping so soundly he could not help but get some naughty ideas. Previously in the hospital, alcohol gave him the courage to hold her all night long. Now that she was discharged, did that mean they could cuddle again? Chuckling while silently condemning his own naughty thoughts, he lifted the blanket and slipped inside, maybe because Serafina was weak, so she felt the cold much more than normal. People feeling his warmth next to her, she consciously snuggled right into his embrace, holding her petite body and smelling that sweet fragrance. He felt his heart melt. He had the wife, the warm bed, and just needed a kid. But looking down at Serafina resting in his arms, he told himself that although he had a wife, the kid part would have to wait a little longer. Thinking like this, he unknowingly drifted off to sleep as well. But what he did not know was that after he fell asleep, Serafina opened her eyes, smiling. She thought about what a silly guy he was. She had already had a full checkup before leaving the hospital, after all. Suddenly, she felt her face heating up again and buried her face back into his chest. This time, she quickly fell into a deep slumber. That evening, when he opened his eyes, he met Serafina's soft, pink lips. Driven by sudden impulse, he kissed her. Her eyes flew open in shock, a blush creeping up her cheeks, but immediately after, she closed her eyes again and wrapped her arms around his neck. Talk about a perfect match. A classic rule: when a guy is kissing, his hands are never idle. Serafina was shocked and shy, wanting to push him away, but her entire brain was completely dizzy and fuzzy. In the end, she just let everything unfold. Then a knock sounded at the door. Calen snapped his eyes open in panic. He noticed Serafina's originally rosy face was suddenly turning incredibly pale again, and her gaze was somewhat unfocused. He was terrified out of his wits and immediately stopped what he was doing. He begged her not to scare him. Serafina gasped with extreme difficulty, telling him the medicine was in her bag. He scrambled off the bed, grabbed her medicine, and fed it to her. Quite a while passed before Serafina recovered. Lying weakly on the bed, Calen felt absolutely heartbroken and, with intense self-blame, unable to stop himself from slapping his own face. He cried that it was all his fault, acting like an animal when her health was so poor, but Serafina just forced a weak smile, whispering that she was fine. She did not blame him. He insisted it was entirely his fault, just as he held her hand, wanting to say more. A loud knocking came from outside the door, along with the loud ringing of his phone. The incoming call was from Alora. She asked what they were doing, since the nanny had been waiting a while. She told him to open up. Calen blurted out in complete confusion, asking about nanny. Alora explained that since Serafina was weak and Calen had to work, she hired help to cook and clean. Calen promised to open the door right away and hung up. He rushed out quickly. Serafina lay on the bed, staring at his retreating back, silently remembering their intense kiss. She wondered if her body were a bit stronger. Would they have gone further? She blushed, and honestly, you can't help but smile with her. A sweet smile blossomed on her lips. The new nanny was named Mrs. Higgins, and she was highly professional. As she bustled about, Calen hovered nearby to learn, planning to show off his cooking skills to his wife later. Meanwhile, Serafina had regained some of her energy and decided to go see her young husband. Because she had been bedridden for so long, her body remained incredibly weak, and her leg muscles had somewhat atrophied. She had barely taken a single step out of her bedroom when she tripped over a stool, crashing heavily to the floor. Hearing a loud commotion, Calen rushed out and saw Serafina sprawled on the ground. Startled, he bolted over to pick her up, asking what happened. His eyes turned red with heartache as he asked why she did not call him to get out of bed instead of trying it completely by herself. Serafina felt deeply embarrassed about falling, and being scolded by him only made it worse. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes as she whimpered that she did not want to trouble him. Seeing this, Calen froze, realizing his harsh words had thrown her into deep turmoil. He gently smiled and wiped away her tears. He reminded her that he was her husband, and relying on him was never a trouble. Holding Serafina's hand close, he jokingly asked if she had bumped her backside when she fell, offering to blow on it to make the pain go away. This highly playful tone immediately worked its charm, making Serafina burst out laughing through her tears. All the previous guilt and heavy self-blame instantly transformed into playful reproach. She reached out a delicate hand and pinched his nose, telling him to keep dreaming since there was an outsider nearby. Just as they finished talking, Mrs. Higgins yells from the kitchen that they can pretend she is not even there, before muttering another complaint, though they will have to pay her back for her blood sugar pills. Hearing this, Serafina gets so incredibly shy she cannot even lift her head, earlobes turning completely red. She shoots him a fierce glare, whispering that it is all his fault. He just grins widely, admitting guilt while piling more food into Serafina's bowl. This meal is incredibly sweet, bringing them much closer, at the very least. Serafina stops blushing at every single little thing. After dinner, he clears the dishes into the kitchen while she stares at him without blinking, feeling quite emotional inside. She always believed she would never actually step into marriage in her entire life, but now not only is she married, but it is too the son of her former best friend. Talk about an old cow grazing on tender grass, classic cougar territory. Thinking of this, Serafina suddenly feels at a loss for what to do in the future. When she meets her best friend, she will not even know what kind of chaotic battleground it will be. right at this moment he suddenly speaks up, asking if his wife wants to go out for a stroll in the park or walk together. A hint of yearning flashes in Serafina's eyes, but it is mostly shyness, like an old married couple holding hands and walking in the park after dinner, thinking about how even though she has kissed and hugged him now, it was all just going with the flow of the moment. Going out on a real date right now, she still feels mentally unready. Thinking this, Serafina subconsciously shakes her head, saying she is too tired tonight. He does not mind at all, telling her it is no problem and suggesting they head back to the room to rest, saying that he picks Serafina up and carries her back to the bed. Then he immediately runs back out, leaving Serafina utterly confused. But soon she sees him return, carrying a basin of warm water to soak her feet. He promises to massage them so she can recover faster. Another massage. Serafina's face turns pink from sheer embarrassment, but he wears a dead serious expression, insisting her legs absolutely need more massaging to regain their strength, saying that, and ignoring whether Serafina objects or not. He has already squatted down and taken off her shoes. Serafina has a slender figure, and her feet are incredibly fair and soft from self-care. Feeling her feet being cupped in his hands, Serafina is too shy to even raise her head, just covering her face and telling him he does not need to massage them. He is completely unabashed, pointing out they are a married couple now. Washing each other's feet is perfectly natural, saying that he gently places her feet into the basin of water, feeling the warm temperature of the water combined with his serious, no-nonsense expression. The shyness on Serafina's face eases quite a bit. After she finishes soaking, he sits on the edge of the bed, pulls her legs onto his lap, and starts massaging from the calves to the thighs. His pressure is perfect. Pressing rhythmically and extremely earnestly, Serafina transitions from unbearable shyness at first to gradually enjoying his massage, and looking at his consistently serious face, a sweet smile forms at the corner of her mouth. She thinks to herself how meeting him is truly wonderful. And just like that, under the tingling pressure, Serafina fell asleep. Calen waited. Once her breathing slowed, he was sure she slept. He gently tucked her legs under the heavy blanket before slipping into the other room. It was not because Calen did not want to share a bed with his beautiful wife, but her fragile, delicate body was still far too weak right now. Losing control now would lead to unthinkable consequences. Meanwhile, back at the Vance family mansion, Alora was sitting on pins and needles. Her eyes remained glued to the laptop screen in front of her. Only when Calen finally entered the spare room did she breathe a sigh of relief. Valerie was shocked. A young guy with this much discipline, incredibly rare. Previously, the nurse said Calen climbed into Serafina's bed for the night. He had stayed curled up right next to her for the entire night. Yet now, living together under one roof, he was behaving perfectly. Alora had actually hidden a camera inside their new living room. Talk about overprotective, but they simply could not stop worrying about Serafina's health. Next morning, a weak, trembling cry shattered Calen's groggy sleep. "Calen, where are you?" It was Serafina. His chest tightened instantly and he scrambled right up. Without even bothering to knock, he threw open Serafina's bedroom door. Serafina was sitting upright in bed, her eyes wide with panic. Her pale cheeks were wet with fresh tears, instantly breaking his heart. He crossed the floor in a single bound, reaching out for her. He pulled Serafina tightly against his chest as she buried her face. She clung to him, inhaling his scent as her rapid breathing finally slowed. Softly, he asked if she had suffered through a terrible nightmare. Serafina did not answer, only wrapping her arms even tighter around him. She was too embarrassed to admit her sheer terror of waking up alone. Seeing her silence, Calen chose not to push her for answers. Instead, he held her close, humming a soft, soothing melody to comfort her. In no time, Serafina drifted right back into a deep, peaceful sleep. When her eyes fluttered open hours later, Mrs. Higgins was standing there. The kind woman smiled, announcing that breakfast was already waiting. Serafina slowly sat up, scanning the hallway outside for any sign of him. Giggling, Mrs. Higgins explained that her husband had already left for work. He specifically insisted the nanny stay here until she was fully awake. The older woman teased her about their sweet, overwhelming romance. Honestly, who wouldn't blush? Her chest was completely bursting with warmth. Meanwhile, arriving at the office, Calen made a firm promise to himself. He needed to work incredibly hard and secure a real fortune. Caring for Serafina's health and building a family would take serious financial power. Just as the morning meeting wrapped up, Barnaby and Calen packed up. Before they could leave, their department head, Sterling, stopped them. He asked how they were settling in over these past 2 days. Sterling insisted they speak up if anything felt off or uncomfortable. Seeing their boss smile so warmly, the two colleagues quickly traded looks. They both sighed inwardly. Here comes the fake corporate kindness. That fake concern is back. Is Sterling trying to force them to choose a side? Barnaby quickly flashes a corporate smile, shaking his head to show that everything is absolutely fine. He also forces a bright grin, thanking him for the concern, Mr. Sterling saying that everything is going great. The boss says that's good. Sterling goes on and on about ancient, irrelevant things for a long time before finally letting them go back to their office. The second they return, Barnaby slaps his thigh, saying the more he thinks about it, the weirder it gets. He wonders if the boss likes them. Our guy shudders, telling him to get lost. He sighs, asking if his friend can ever think of anything positive. He stops messing around, needing to get back to work, whatever Sterling's agenda might be. The only goal right now is doing his job well. After all, he has to make money to support his beloved wife. Just thinking of Serafina brings a wide smile to his face. Suddenly, even the boring office work looks much better. Soon, the workday finally ends. Barnaby excitedly scoots over, proposing they grab some drinks tonight. They haven't hung out in forever, but right before his colleague even finishes speaking, our guy grabs his jacket and bolts out the door, shouting that he has no time. Barnaby yells back in disbelief. He asks if there is some gorgeous goddess waiting for him at home. The moment he arrives home, he is greeted by piping hot, delicious food. And Serafina, who is resting at the table, playing on her phone. Hearing the door, she quickly looks up with a look of pure delight. She happily welcomes him back, mentioning that the food is completely ready. She tells him to wash up and eat. Earlier that day, Serafina had the helper assist her with a bath. Right now, she is wearing a lovely pink nightgown, looking incredibly small and delicate, staring at his absolute dream girl looking like this. He can't help but grin widely, telling his wife that she is absolutely gorgeous. Her face flushes instantly as she playfully tells him that he is too annoying. She complains about his sweet talk, but her cute little reaction only makes his heart flutter. He almost loses control and pounces right there. Luckily, sanity wins. He takes a deep breath and quickly rushes to the kitchen to wash his hands. Seeing him dash off, Serafina simply giggles. After finishing their dinner, since it is still early, he suggests once again that they head out for a walk in the park. This time, she hesitates for just a brief second before happily agreeing. But looking down at her comfy nightgown, she feels a bit troubled. Wondering if she should change, he immediately replies that she looks beautiful. But then he quickly backtracks, pointing out that the thin fabric is way too breezy for the cold outdoors. He suggests changing clothes. At this point, Serafina thinks for a moment, tilts her head, and asks him to pick an outfit for her instead. He nods immediately, but the moment he opens up her closet, his cheerful expression immediately fades. He immediately regrets saying that, realizing it might sound incredibly insensitive. Her long hospital stay had probably drained every single penny she had, and could not afford new ones. Thinking of this, his resolve to make bank became even firmer. Hearing this, Serafina mentally cursed crap. Back then when her cousin bought this apartment because time was too tight, she only picked some ordinary clothes and daily necessities from home. Right now, it barely filled half a closet. After casually picking out a dress, Calen asked with concern, "Wifey, should he help her change?" As he spoke, a faint, imperceptible smirk tugged at his lips. After all, her body was too weak. What if she passed out while changing clothes? Serafina didn't know whether to laugh or cry, insisting she was no vegetable and not as weak as he imagined. Half an hour later, inside Riverside Park near the neighborhood, Serafina and Calen sat on a bench in the park watching an old married couple walk past. Both of their hair was white and the old grandma's steps were faltering and her back was hunched, yet the old grandpa didn't show any disgust. Instead, he slowed his pace, matching the old grandma's steps as they slowly walked forward. No one knew exactly what crossed her mind, but a trace of yearning suddenly welled up in Serafina's heart, and the corners of her mouth unconsciously turned up. Will she and Calen be like them in the future? Wifey, do you want a candied hawthorn stick? Calen's voice pulled Serafina back to reality. She looked up and saw a Vendor carrying candied hawthorns not far away. In her memory, she had never eaten this kind of street snack. When she was a kid, her family's conditions were poor, and when she grew up, she had no time and felt it was childish. But at this moment, Serafina suddenly wanted to know what candied hawthorns tasted like. She immediately said happily that she wanted to eat one. Young man buying a candied hawthorn for your girlfriend. The vendor looked at Calen and Serafina, chuckling, offering to pick a big one for them. Calen paid and lifted his chin, saying she was his wife, not a girlfriend with a certificate. The vendor froze for a second, remarking how young she looked to be married this early, making them a perfect match. Serafina was so shy, her face turned bright red. She protested she was actually quite old, but Calen quickly interrupted her, calling her his wifey who looked just like a girl in her early 20s. This statement was not entirely a lie. After all, Serafina inherently had a slender figure, and with her naturally small face and fair skin, she looked incredibly young no matter how anyone looked at her. After Calen sat back on the bench, Serafina felt a bit embarrassed and whispered, asking why he kept telling everyone they had a marriage certificate, saying he was showing off. Calen grinned but didn't answer Serafina. Instead, he asked a young couple walking by, introducing his wife and asking if she was beautiful. This extrovert, social butterfly behavior utterly bewildered the young couple. After snapping out of it, they both nodded in unison, agreeing she was beautiful. By this time, Serafina was already too shy to lift her head, unleashing a flurry of loving fist combos on Calen, urging him to leave before he grabbed a passing dog just to show off to it. Left with no choice, he had to hastily end this date. However, the moment they stepped inside the house, he got a burst of energy again, telling her to head to the room so he could wash her feet and give her a massage. More massaging? Serafina asked as her face turned pink. Serafina felt it was honestly too embarrassing, but he kept a completely solemn face. Why wouldn't they? Her legs absolutely needed more massaging to fully recover their strength. Saying that, he smoothly opened the candied hawthorn and handed it over. Just wait for your humble servant. Serafina was highly amused. Giggling nonstop, she tentatively took a bite. In an instant, sweet and sour flavors filled her mouth. Serafina narrowed her eyes. Honestly, her mood had never been this joyful before. After the massage ended, he stood up and prepared to leave, but Serafina's delicate hands gripped his clothes, refusing to let go. What was wrong? Seeing this, he instantly got nervous. Wifey, are you feeling unwell somewhere? Serafina's pretty face turned slightly red, and she spoke hesitantly. Are you still sleeping next door tonight? Saying this, she recalled waking up this morning only to find herself completely alone, feeling so panicked and insecure. She did not want to experience that a second time, but actually asking him out loud to stay and sleep with her was just too hard. She couldn't do it. He, however, understood immediately. Wifey, if you want me to sleep over here, then I won't go over there, he hurriedly added. But don't worry, until your body is fully recovered, I won't mess around. She quietly teased, what if my body recovers? Hearing this, he froze, then laughed, promising they would do what married couples love to do. After saying that, he went to take a shower. Listening to his retreating footsteps, Serafina finally opened her beautiful eyes. Her face was flushed, but the corners of her mouth stayed turned up. 2 minutes later, hearing his footsteps return, she immediately closed her eyes to pretend to sleep. She felt the mattress sink down slightly, followed closely by a warm body pressing close to her. Wifey, let me hold you while we sleep. Serafina didn't speak, but cooperatively lifted her head, letting his arm slide under to nestle herself into his embrace. Before long, Serafina fell asleep, her breathing steady. He, on the other hand, was secretly suffering in absolute agony. Can we really blame him? A warm, fragrant beauty in his arms, and she was his legally certified wife, yet he couldn't do a damn thing. He just gritted his teeth and endured it the entire night. Early the next morning, when he opened the door for Mrs. Higgins, she was startled by his dark circles and furrowed her brows. Serafina's body hasn't recovered yet. Why don't you young folks know how to show some restraint? Serafina happened to be getting out of bed. Hearing this, she instantly blushed scarlet. His own face also turned red, and he used a quick excuse to flee the scene. He couldn't explain this even if he tried. After eating breakfast, Serafina walked him to the door. Go to work, I will wait for you. Looking at her, his heart skipped a beat. Unable to resist any longer, he leaned down and kissed her cheek. Serafina stood frozen for a moment, looking at his fleeing Silhouette, she couldn't help but laugh. As a newbie, he was quite busy at work, having to learn the ropes while also familiarizing himself with company rules. He stayed busy right up until lunchtime, then headed toward the company cafeteria. With Barnaby as a somewhat well-known company domestically, Serafina. Biological Tech offered some truly fantastic employee benefits. For starters, getting 3 dishes and a soup for $5 at the cafeteria was already miles ahead of other companies, but as Barnaby and Caden grabbed food, the employee section, manager Sterling walked right over. The nearby workers greeted him. Sterling gave them a slight nod in response, then walked straight up to Caden and Barnaby, telling them to follow him. When Sterling singled them out like that, the other employees froze. Caden had been working hard all morning and was so incredibly hungry his stomach was growling. But he really could not refuse. The two had no choice but to follow. Behind them, the rest of the staff immediately started gloating about them, whispering that those two got a private office right away because of special backing. They mocked them, saying their luck had clearly run out already. Getting dragged away for extra work right at lunchtime seemed hilarious to them. Hearing the petty gossip, Caden silently sighed and prepared for the worst. But get this, instead of trouble, Sterling leads them straight to the executive room. Executive dining room, causing Barnaby to anxiously mutter under his breath. He wondered if the boss was going to make them watch him eat while assigning work. Caden was also surprised, thinking earning a simple salary here was definitely not easy. As they whispered, Sterling smiled warmly and told them to sit down. He offered to let them order whatever they wanted from the premium menu. Barnaby was completely stunned by the offer, eating in the VIP section. The food here was on a completely different level than the regular cafeteria. Caden quickly snapped out of it, hesitantly pointing out this might go against company rules. But Sterling insisted it was fine since they had business to discuss. He told them they would just enjoy a nice meal together today. He passed them the premium menu, telling them not to be polite. Since the two friends were already starving, they threw caution to the wind. They immediately began ordering a massive feast. The food in this executive area was absolutely incredible, featuring luxury dishes like lobster and fresh abalone. The expensive dishes arrived as if they were free. At first, the two felt slightly hesitant, but Sterling kept urging them to dig in and eat. He jokingly insisted he could never finish all this food by himself anyway. Only when he saw Barnaby and Caden eating happily did the manager. Sterling's suspended heart finally settled down in relief. Sterling secretly rejoiced, knowing these two were personally sent by the old lady. He knew he absolutely had to stay on their good side. Suddenly, Caden spoke up, asking about the business the manager wanted to discuss. Sterling snapped out of his thoughts and quickly shook his head. He explained that he actually wanted to transfer Caden to a different position. Caden was completely stunned, while Barnaby immediately asked if they were separating. Sterling looked over at Barnaby and quickly reassured him. He explained they would still share the same office, with just extra tasks for Caden. Caden let out a sigh of relief and eagerly asked for details. Since he had only been doing minor chores, he was ready for a challenge. Without some real work to do, he would honestly feel quite useless. Sterling tries his best to look friendly, explaining that the company does not have enough drivers, so they decided to assign Calen a car. From now on, whenever Sterling goes out on business, he will trouble Calen to drive. Hearing this, Calen is completely baffled. Sterling is a company veteran actually using polite words on a lowly intern. It is absurd. Simply too absurd. Barnaby is also shocked, asking if Sterling wants Calen to work part-time as a driver. Sterling quickly shakes his head, not part-time, but assigning him a car specifically to chauffeur Sterling alone. Plus, he rarely goes out. Very often, the workload is tiny. Sterling then suddenly remembers something. He asks if Calen has a license, and Calen nods. He does, then. It is settled, Sterling finalizes. He asks if Calen is full and offers to show him the car. Calen follows Sterling out the door in a daze. Before leaving, Sterling instructs Barnaby to take his time eating. If it is not enough, he can order more on Sterling's tab. Just like that, Calen is led straight to the company parking lot. There, staring at the Xiaomi SU7 in front of him, Calen turns into a literal statue. He asks if this is the car the company is assigning him, surely not this exact one. Hearing this, Sterling freezes, immediately asking if he dislikes it and what car he prefers. This car was ordered by the chairman, but she did not Specify which model to give. Sterling had racked his brain all night before. Settling on this choice, if it was too expensive or cheap, it might incur the chairman's wrath. This Xiaomi SU7 was not too flashy, just right. Calen tentatively asks if they can actually change it if he dislikes it. Sterling slaps his thigh, assuring Calen they will change it until he is satisfied. Quickly, he realizes how that sounds and hurriedly corrects himself. After all, Calen is the one driving. If he is comfortable driving, Sterling will feel at ease. Calen sucks in a breath. Good heavens, these employee benefits are so incredible, they are almost terrifying. But on second thought, Calen is just a regular intern with no background or status. What could the company possibly want from him? If they offer a car, he should just take it. Relaxing, he says he thinks. This car is pretty great. Sterling breathes a deep sigh of relief, saying, as long as Calen likes it, shoving the keys straight into his hand. He tells Calen to keep them, use it for commuting, and remember to save gas receipts so the company can fully reimburse him. Calen stares in disbelief, unable to believe such an amazing deal exists. Sterling hastily explains that this is just to make it convenient for him to contact Calen quickly and keep company business moving smoothly. But deep down, Sterling is sweating bullets, secretly cursing to himself. He would rather build Calen a shrine than ever dare summon him around. Dare to summon Calen at a moment's notice. Calen looks at the keys in his hand and sheer excitement ultimately conquers his nervous hesitation. He agrees, telling Sterling to rest assured because he will absolutely be on call whenever he is needed. Returning to the office, Barnaby lies on the sofa playing a mobile game. Seeing Calen walk back in, he does not even lift his head. Barnaby asks what car they assigned him, maybe one of those slowpoke road blockers. Our guy grins, boasting about the top-tier Xiaomi SU7 Max Edition. Barnaby does not believe a word of it, but he does not bother arguing. He just pockets the keys and heads off for a quick noon nap. After wrapping up his work that evening, he texts Serafina about a surprise. He tells her to wait for him at home, then drags Barnaby to the parking lot. The moment he unlocks the car doors, Barnaby is absolutely frozen with jealousy. Our guy just laughs, mocking his friend for drooling over a car. He offers Barnaby a ride home while he grabs his own things from the dorm. After packing up his stuff and driving back, it is already getting late. By nearly 7 in the evening, he reaches the door just as it swings open. Serafina greets him with a radiant smile, happy that he is finally back. But he instantly panics, asking his wife why on earth she is standing up. Seeing him in such a nervous panic, Serafina feels a sweet rush of affection. Her voice softens with a hint of playful sass as she reassures him. She insists she is not made of glass and walking is totally fine. But he refuses to take even a 1 in a million chance of her falling. Without leaving any room for argument, he sweeps her right up. He cradles Serafina in his arms and kicks the door shut behind them. On the table, a spread of 4 dishes and a soup is waiting for them. But since quite some time has passed, the food has gone a bit cold. He gently scolds his wife, asking why she did not just eat without him. Serafina softly murmurs that she just did not want to eat all alone. She confesses she hates being without him, making his heart absolutely sore. It looks like this gorgeous wife is growing more fond of him by the day. He has to wait for her recovery. Who can blame him? Once she recovers, his lifelong childhood dream will be 100% realized. After dinner, he holds Serafina's hand as they walk to the parking lot. She already knows what the surprise is, but playfully pretends to be confused. She asks where the secret surprise is, and he proudly puffs out his chest. He points straight at the brand new Xiaomi SU7 Max Edition with pride. Showing off his grand surprise, he asks if she likes the Xiaomi SU7. Serafina frowns slightly because she actually arranged a company car for him. She did not specify a model, but this electric car seems a bit lacking. After all, she is used to driving luxury Porsches and high-end supercars. Seeing her lukewarm reaction, he asks his wife if she dislikes it. She quickly snaps out of her thoughts and forces a look of surprise. She gasps, asking where he got the money to buy such a car. He guides her closer, explaining that the company actually assigned the vehicle to him. He tells her that this entire situation is actually incredibly bizarre. As a simple marketing grunt, he somehow got a private office of his own. Now they even hand him a free car to use however he likes. Hearing his cute confusion, Serafina has to hold back her laughter. She figures her family's old lady must have found out about his job interview. Her grandmother clearly pulled some major strings with human resources to arrange all this. To Serafina, those corporate bosses are as slippery as they come, facing a guy planted by the old lady they will surely rush to. Suck up to him. Behind that silent thought, she puts on a look of complete amazement. Really, she asks, maybe the company actually recognized your unreal talent. I never knew you were this incredible, hearing her praise. He practically puffs up like a proud peacock, showing off his shiny feathers. The more he talks, the smugger he gets, telling her not to worry. Because his job values him so much, making good money for their future is going to be a breeze. Serafina breaks out into a soft laugh, agreeing. She says she believes him. He gets anxious, insisting he is telling the truth. Her health is weak, so she should just enjoy her life while he handles all the finances. Even now, he still has no clue why she had fallen into a vegetative state, and he never dared to ask too many painful questions. He only wants to build a beautiful, peaceful life for her. Just complete comfort. Feeling a sudden prick of tears, Serafina quickly tries to change the topic, asking if this fancy car is his big surprise. He shakes his head with a mysterious smile, then steps over and pulls open the passenger door. Immediately, a sweet floral scent fills the chilly evening air as he reveals a massive bouquet of fresh red roses. He hands them over. For you, wifey. She just stares blankly at the roses. In an instant, her eyes flood with tears. He panics, worrying she dislikes them more. Is somehow allergic to pollen, so he scrambles to throw the bouquet away. But right as he moves, she lunges forward and wraps her arms around him tightly. He freezes. This is the very first time she has initiated any physical closeness. You giant idiot, she says while hugging him, her voice thick with tears. I am just a useless burden who was sick for so long. I am 20 years older than you. Why do you treat me so well? Hearing her say this, he chuckles, wrapping his arms securely around her slender waist. You silly girl, you are my wife. If I do not love you, who else would I? You are the most perfect woman in the world to me. Being able to marry you is the absolute blessing of 3 lifetimes. He gently wipes her tears. Okay, stop crying, he says. People might think I am bullying you if they see this. Plus, there is another gift. Serafina freezes. Another one, she asks. With a warm smile, he pulls a ring from his pocket. He rubs the back of his neck, apologizing. He wanted to get her a real diamond ring, but he just started this job and funds are pretty tight, so she will have to settle for this simple band. Before he even finishes speaking, Serafina already slides the ring onto her finger, asking if it looks pretty. She holds up her hand right next to her face, eyes shining with pure happiness. The ring itself is super basic, but under the golden street lights paired with her radiant smile, she makes for an incredibly beautiful sight. He can only stare and nod his head. It looks stunning. Absolutely perfect. Her smile gets even warmer, admitting she loves it too. Praising his taste, but he clarifies he meant her. Instantly, her face flushes red, totally embarrassed and flustered by his smooth charm. Her body sways, almost falling. Standing for so long has completely drained her. Between the heavy emotions and physical strain, her body is struggling to cope. He quickly catches her, asking if she is all right, but she says she is just tired. She wants to go home, so he nods, scoops her up, and heads back. He carries Serafina, who tightly holds a massive bouquet of beautiful red roses. This draws curious glances from everyone walking by, making Serafina blush. She asks if he is tired and suggests she should walk on her own. He proudly laughs it off, reminding her that her husband boasts a solid 8-pack. He probably should have kept quiet, because his words trigger a sudden memory for her. She instantly remembers his wild hospital boasts about going multiple rounds in bed. The scandalous memory turns her face completely red, and she buries it in his chest. A tiny smile creeps onto her lips as she hides against him. The 8-pack remains unverified, but his chest is undeniably solid and well-trained. By the time they arrive home, Serafina is already fast asleep. He gently tucks her into bed before taking care of her tired feet. After a soothing wash and massage, he holds her close and drifts off. The next morning, as he prepares for work, Serafina slowly rises from her wheelchair. She takes a few careful steps toward him and reaches up on her tiptoes. She plants a soft kiss on his cheek, leaving him completely frozen. Never before has Serafina been so incredibly bold and proactive with her affection. Before he can even process what happened, she shoves him out the front door. She locks the door, shyly calling out for him to go to work. He panics, begging her to open up, but she firmly refuses from inside. That sudden burst of courage used up every ounce of bravery she had. She cannot bear to face him right now, leaving him wailing outside in despair. He whines about still wearing indoor slippers, though he remains in high spirits. After arriving at the office, he happily helps Barnaby brew coffee in the pantry. The office pantry is always the liveliest place early in the morning. Everyone loves to gather here to gossip and slack off after clocking in. Several coworkers are already hanging out inside, mostly female staff members. They chatter away like noisy sparrows until they notice him walk in. Every eye locks onto him, and their faces instantly light up with excitement. Though the company has many young employees, a handsome guy like him is rare. He has the looks and the build, making him a major catch. A female coworker named Linnea immediately sidles up to introduce herself. She asks to exchange contacts, claiming it will make work communication much easier. Once she breaks the ice, the other girls quickly crowd around him too. Talk about overwhelming, but as the new guy, he can't really say no. He pulls out his phone and starts adding all of them one by one. With a sweet smile, Linnea asks if he happens to have a girlfriend. The entire crowd of girls leans in closer, eagerly waiting for his answer. He keeps a completely straight face and calmly reveals he is married. The crowd goes dead silent, looking at him with sheer disbelief. They refuse to believe it, arguing that he looks like a fresh college graduate. Thinking he is joking, they press for the truth while he stands there helplessly. Calen was actually married, but absolutely nobody in the crowd believed him. They demanded to see his wedding photos. Linnea, in particular, was blunt. She pointed out his lack of a wedding ring, asking who on earth would believe him. When he married Serafina, she was still in a vegetative state, even. The marriage certificate was processed using their photos. He could only bite the bullet, explaining his wife's poor health meant they only got the certificate. Hearing this, Linnea looked at him with an expression of deep amusement. She asked if he at least had a photo of the certificate. The marriage certificate, Calen suddenly snapped back to reality. He grabbed his phone to find a photo, only to realize he had never taken one. Seeing his silence, the crowd immediately began to tease him. They joked that he was just tricking them because he could not produce it. They teased if he was worried about harassment with so many pretty girls around. Calen had very little experience dealing with girls in his life. His face flushed red from their teasing, fortunately at that exact moment. Sterling walked past the pantry to bail him out, demanding they stop. He asked what they were doing making a racket instead of working. Someone playfully stuck out their tongue, pointing out their severe shortage of guys. With far too many girls, a rare catch like Calen was high potential. They felt they absolutely had to strike quickly while the iron was still hot. Sterling seemed to think of something, pulling a long face. He snapped that dating required mutual consent and cornering people was completely unacceptable, ordering every single one of them back to work immediately. Calen breathed a sigh of relief, holding his 2 cups of coffee. He prepared to head back, but Sterling suddenly patted his shoulder. Sterling mentioned having a very pretty niece. Calen had only wanted coffee, but ended up cornered in the pantry by aggressive female colleagues. Even his department head wanted to introduce his daughter to him. But Calen politely handed out nice guy cards to every single one. He was married at a young age and to his childhood dream goddess. She had recently woken up from her long vegetative state. Her body was still very weak, which is why he was alone. And get this, his honest explanation actually backfired in a big way. His colleague Linnea did not believe him and even had her aunt, the finance director, assign him to field work just to be alone. As soon as they got in the car, Linnea immediately launched a fierce offensive. She confessed she liked him quite a bit, asking him to look. She boasted about having curves in all the right places, suggesting a try. Calen was genuinely spooked by her directness, pleading with her to stop. He insisted he was married and promised to prove it tomorrow. Linnea curled her lip, claiming anyone could buy a fake certificate on Pinduoduo. She asked if he just disliked her, leaving him completely speechless. Not wanting to waste any more breath, Calen firmly changed the subject. He asked for the exact address where they needed to collect the debt. Seeing that Calen adamantly refused to take the bait, Linnea felt helpless. She sighed and gave him the address, but she still refused to give up, trying to act cute by complaining that her seatbelt was broken and would not budge. She asked him to help, but he saw through her little trick in a second. He told her to sit in the back instead, leaving Linnea utterly speechless. It took a moment before she angrily buckled it herself, glaring at him through gritted teeth, calling him impossible. He simply did not care as he slammed the gas pedal to set off. The job went smoothly, and by the time they collected the debt, it was only a little past 5 p.m. He wanted to drop Linnea back at the office so he could rush home, but she stopped him. She reminded him they were on field work and did not need to go back to the office to clock out. With that, Linnea gave him a playful blink. She suggested a great Western restaurant nearby where they could grab a bite. He flatly refused, prompting her to complain about how proactive she was being. He retorted that her being proactive did not mean he had to cooperate. Having completely lost his patience, he watched as Linnea finally snapped, got out of the car and stormed off. He was more than happy to be free. He hummed a tune and drove back home, which usually took until 7 p.m. Today, however, he was through the front door before 6 in the evening. Opening the door quietly, he found an empty living room but heard faint voices. Coming from the study, a voice mentioned reviewing a previous project and pushing it back for now, asking if everything at the company was running normally. The speaker added that they could not return to the office just yet. Hearing this intermittent conversation, he froze in place. Project, company. Was his wife talking to someone? Did she actually have a job? That made no sense. Logically, any ordinary employee sick for this long would have been fired ages ago, not to mention that his wife had previously been given a terminal diagnosis by her doctors. So how was it that she still had her job, with major projects waiting for her approval? Right as he stood there completely baffled by all of this, Serafina stepped out of the study, noting that he was finally back. Her words snapped him to reality, and he asked what she was doing. Serafina waved her tablet, explaining that this workplace drama was intense. He saw the female boss calling someone on screen, and everything clicked. The lines he overheard were just television dialogue. She then asked why he was home so early, which brought a quick smile to his face. He explained that he had fieldwork today, which allowed him an early exit. But Serafina suddenly froze. Who would assign fieldwork to her husband? The marketing department did require it, but surely not a brand new hire. Oblivious to her sudden stiffness, he simply complained about his day, mentioning that the finance director made him go out with a coworker to collect a debt. Hearing this explanation, Serafina felt slightly relieved. She asked if he disliked taking her, while secretly planning her next move. She decided she would need to speak with Sterling very soon. After all, that car was meant specifically for her husband's private use. He shook his head, recounting the entire chaotic day from start to running into Linnea in the pantry and dealing with her relentless flirting during their field work. When Serafina heard that a female colleague asked for his contact info, the break room, her expression turned a bit sour. She had always felt deeply insecure because she was almost 20 years older than him, and she knew very well that the younger girls at the office were always dressed to impress and incredibly glamorous. But upon hearing that, he did not hesitate for a second to declare his married status, she started laughing again. In this moment, she suddenly felt an unparalleled sweetness in her heart. Your husband gets harassed and you still laugh. He put on an aggrieved expression, acting deeply wounded. You have no idea, he said. Today in the pantry felt like entering a spider demon cave. He was terrified. Serafina giggled out loud, asking if he still resisted those external temptations. He heard the undercurrent of worry in her voice and said resolutely, Wifey, with you here, things on the outside are not called temptations, they are just flies. They are just harassment. He needed to look at his precious wife to heal his traumatized soul. She playfully complained that he only knew how to sweet-talk her. She glared at him playfully but felt incredibly happy. Seeing this, he took a step forward and wrapped his arms around her waist, telling her she was absolutely perfect, and other women could not even compare to her little finger. Serafina's face instantly exploded in red. Blush heavy and shy, she pushed him away and walked into the bedroom. He sighed. This mature beauty was amazing at everything, but she was just too easy to embarrass. It seemed he really needed to double down on the sweet talk about a man on a mission. Otherwise, at this rate, when would they ever reach the finish line? When their nanny, Mrs. Higgins, arrived right on time to cook dinner, she was quite curious to find him home, asking why he was back so early today. He replied that he was missing his wife, so he worked like crazy too. Finish early and keep her company. Serafina, however, immediately blushed bright red, scolding him for talking nonsense, to make matters even more amusing. Mrs. Higgins teased them, saying newlyweds are always so sweet together. Hearing this, he corrected her with a completely serious face, explaining that this had nothing to do with being newlyweds, it was simply because his wife was too gorgeous and he loved her too much. His cheesy flirting continued nonstop, forcing Serafina to cover her bright red face. Stop talking. She pleaded. He wanted to keep going, but obediently agreed to follow his wife's orders. Stop it, she protested, so anxious she was almost stomping her feet. Mrs. Higgins watched them bicker with a wide smile, sighing that it was so good to be young. After she finished cooking and left, Serafina frowned. It seemed their nanny took on another cleaning job on the side. She was busy constantly while her husband refused to even cook, leaving her with everything. He quickly chimed in, promising he would never treat his wife like that, right now. His job paid incredibly well for very little labor, even if she quit. He could easily support her and keep the nanny hired forever if she wanted. Hearing this, Serafina felt an overwhelming rush of sweetness inside her. On the surface, she feigned distress, but Mrs. Higgins' salary was still paid by his mom. Once he passed probation and his job stabilized, he wanted to take over the bills. He would tell his mom that he would handle Mrs. Higgins' salary himself, along with the rent, which he promised to cover too, speaking as if it were just a matter of course. Serafina smiled and curled her finger, beckoning him to come over for a quick second. He leaned in, but she suddenly reached out, wrapping her arms around him. She pulled him close, planting a sweet kiss on his cheek, leaving him utterly stunned. He never expected such a wonderful perk, but his reaction was lightning fast. He grabbed Serafina, reversing their positions. What started as a simple peck landed squarely on her lips. As they kissed passionately, a soft, intimate sound echoed. Serafina felt incredibly shy and flustered, yet she found it sweet beyond belief. She sat in her wheelchair, eyes closed and head tilted back, completely yielding. Finally, the kiss ended. Both of them were left panting for breath. Serafina was particularly exhausted, as her frail body had not fully recovered yet. Talk about a powerful reaction. The intense emotion drained all her color. He panicked, asking his wife if she was okay, and instantly blaming himself. It was all his fault, knowing her poor health yet constantly losing control. Before he could finish, Serafina reached out and gently covered his mouth. She assured him she just needed some rest to be fine, blushing deeply as she spoke. She admitted she actually liked it too. Later that night, she nestled in his arms. Speaking softly, she reminded him that he had not finished his company story. She asked about the finance director, who personally asked him to take someone out. He nodded, explaining that everyone at the office called that director the Iron Maiden. He told her that behind her back, employees called her the Iron Maiden. Serafina's body stiffened, and she unconsciously started laughing at the title. Knowing Fiona's real personality, that fierce nickname was incredibly fitting. He continued speaking, but then paused as a sudden realization hit him. Linnea and the director shared the last name Yu. Could they be related? Could they be related? Hearing this, Serafina frowned slightly. Ever since her depression diagnosis, she had struggled to visit the office. As her mood deteriorated, she stopped going, leaving her out of the loop. Because of that, she was entirely unaware of the recent personnel changes. A simple favor for a relative was fine, but abuse of power was not. But if she was abusing power for Linnea, he suddenly asked if she was listening. Serafina snapped back to reality and asked him what he had just said. He took a deep breath, explaining that his coworkers did not believe he was married. He suggested they take a selfie together, so he would finally have proof. Now this is where things get tricky. He wanted to show her off. But since he had not smoothed things over with his mom yet, if his mom saw her son acting lovey-dovey with her best friend, her blood pressure would instantly shoot straight to 280. Serafina stiffened completely, her mind racing at the danger of his suggestion. With his show-off personality, a single photo would expose them instantly. Within half a day, literally everyone at the office would know. An absolute disaster. He smiled and asked what she thought. He eagerly pulled out his phone, already searching for couple photo shoot ideas. Serafina gave a stiff smile, admitting she did not really like taking pictures or being flashy, asking him to just drop it. He was a bit disappointed but did not force it, agreeing to drop the photo shoot. Instead, he planned to bring their marriage certificate to the office tomorrow. He was sure nobody would doubt him then. Serafina's smile grew even stiffer. But she said nothing, only nodding vaguely to pass it off. Early the next morning when he woke up, he noticed Serafina had already gotten out of bed. Feeling puzzled, he asked his wife why she was up so early today. Serafina slowly walked over, softly mentioning that the doctor recommended early hours. For her health, she also mentioned that Mrs. Higgins had already prepared breakfast and urged him to get up. After eating, he started searching for the marriage certificate, but the license he had originally tucked away inside his suitcase was nowhere to be found. He pulled his hair out in frustration, wondering how it could have vanished. Meanwhile, Serafina sat on the side, tilting her head and suggesting he might have simply remembered wrong. She urged him to go to work and look for it later, but he insisted he needed it to show those annoying colleagues. Just then, a brilliant idea suddenly struck him. He asked for her copy instead, but Serafina quickly shook her head. She explained her certificate was still with her mother, urging him to hurry up and get to work. With that, Serafina planted a sweet kiss on his cheek. Although he was still unwilling to give up, he had to leave the house since time was running out. He left disappointed, but the moment he stepped inside the office, But get this, his colleagues were already giving him incredibly bizarre looks, as if he were some kind of creep. Sure enough, a colleague quickly scurried over to him. The man warned him that Mr. Sterling wanted to see him in his office immediately. The husband froze, nodding hurriedly and promising to go right away. At this point, the colleague lowered his voice with a wicked grin, calling him a sly dog and asking what on earth he did to Linnea from finance yesterday. Apparently she had arrived with red, swollen eyes, and the boss's summons was probably about this mess. He patted the husband's shoulder, wishing him mercy. The husband pointed at himself, completely incredulous at the accusation. The colleague chuckled, reminding him about their field work yesterday. They did not even return after hours, sparking some serious rumors. He called him brave, noting Linnea was the niece of the finance director and the reigning beauty of the department. Nobody could believe he actually dared to pull such a stunt, jokingly calling him a legend before giving a thumbs up. The husband was completely stunned, telling him to stop spreading nonsense. He insisted she left immediately after work, and he had gone straight home to his wife. Completely clueless about any drama, the coworker simply rolled his eyes, looking highly skeptical, advising him to stop making excuses and start praying. He watched helplessly as the man walked off, leaving him utterly baffled. Just then Barnaby popped up out of nowhere, also giving him a thumbs up. Barnaby praised him, amazed that he had managed to cause such a scene. After only a few days, already making a female colleague cry her eyes red. Hearing those words, Calen snaps back to reality and throws a furious punch. He tells him to shut his mouth, demanding if he looks like that kind of person. Refusing to waste more words, Calen heads straight for Sterling's office. He wants to see exactly what kind of drama is playing out inside. Looking at Fiona's stony face, Sterling can already feel a massive headache coming on. He lowers his voice, telling Director Yu not to blame him for not warning her. He points out that Calen is no ordinary employee, having been sent by the old lady. Fiona cuts him off immediately, asking what difference that even makes. Rules are still rules, she insists, chattering away relentlessly. She seems completely determined to get some form of justice for Linnea. Right then, Calen knocks and enters, asking if Sterling was looking for him. Seeing him, Sterling gasps in relief, saying Calen is finally here. He demands to know what exactly happened with little Linnea the day before. The poor girl apparently came back, crying so hard her eyes became swollen. Stepping inside, Calen sees a totally stressed-out Sterling and an ashen-faced Fiona. Beside them sits Linnea, sporting swollen eyes but staring at him with pure smugness. Total chaos. What kind of battleground has he walked into? Fiona coldly demands to know what Calen did to Linnea, making him lean back. He retorts that he did absolutely nothing, asking what they even mean by that. Fiona demands to know why the girl cried so much if he did nothing. He snaps that he has zero clue, staring strangely at Linnea. Locking eyes with her smug gaze, his temper completely flares up. He demands she explain exactly what he supposedly did to her. Linnea, silent until now, finally cries out that he hurt her pride. Hearing this, both Calen and Sterling are left completely baffled by her answer. Even Fiona is confused, asking if she was actually bullied by him. Linnea self-righteously claims she was bullied after lowering her standards for him. She tried to show goodwill by asking him out, only to be rejected. He kept boasting about his wife, claiming he looked down on people like her. To make it worse, he abandoned her without even driving her home. She grows increasingly dramatic, stating that since they were on company business, he had an absolute duty to ensure she got home safely. And even personally speaking, shouldn't a man show at least some gentlemanly grace? Calen literally laughs out of sheer rage at her ridiculous logic. He asks who she thinks she is, demanding if he must accept her advances. Besides, he really does have a wife, which is none of her business anyway. Finally slamming his hand on the desk, he snaps that her boundary issues are infuriating. The sudden outburst completely stuns Linnea, leaving her speechless for a moment. But her next words shock both Fiona and Sterling to their absolute core. The sheer audacity of this girl is honestly mind-blowing. She screams to fire him, making Fiona frown in deep thought. Fiona might be the finance director, but Calen is no ordinary employee either. He was personally brought in by the family matriarch, after all. Can they really just dismiss someone with those kinds of powerful connections? Calen quietly regrets his impulsiveness, realizing he just provoked a totally delusional princess. She actually had powerful backing. If Calen lost this hard-to-find job over this nonsense, it would be a total nightmare. He still needed to support his beloved wife. Panicking, he quickly turned to Sterling, pleading that he did nothing wrong. He couldn't just be fired on some spoiled brat's whim. Seeing this, Sterling stepped in to reassure him, telling Calen not to worry. He was a valued member of marketing, and firing decisions were Sterling's alone. Nobody else had a say in his department. Finally, Calen breathed a sigh. Meanwhile, Linnea nearly exploded with rage, stomping her feet in absolute fury. She whined loudly to Fiona. Honestly, Fiona originally just wanted an apology. She had no real intentions of firing Calen, but his refusal to back down, combined with Sterling's defense, sparked her growing anger. She demanded to know if this was how Sterling managed his staff. Sterling fired back, pointing out that this was entirely her niece's fault. Calen was already married, yet she kept forcing herself onto him anyway. Now that she got rejected, she was playing the victim. She's some goddess everyone has to bow down to, Linnea snapped back. She claimed she didn't believe he was even married in the first place. He didn't wear a ring and couldn't even show a single couple's photo. It was clearly a lie, she insisted, curling her lip in disgust. Even if he had a wife, she couldn't possibly compete with her. She was a top university graduate, gorgeous, talented, and highly capable. Having her like him was an honor, so how dare he reject her? She desperately wanted to save face and crush Calen's pride completely. Calen had officially reached his limit. He slammed his hand hard on the desk. So what if he was lying? She was incredibly annoying, capable my ass. If she had actual talent, her head wouldn't be filled only with men. He made it crystal clear, his wife was 100 times more beautiful than her. You loved to see it, she didn't even compare to his wife's pinky toes. This left Linnea utterly stupefied. When she snapped out of it, she wailed. Fiona glared at Linnea, shouting at her to stop crying immediately. She asked if she had embarrassed them enough, then glared at Calen. She accused him of publicly insulting a coworker right in front of her. Since this behavior was entirely unacceptable and created a toxic environment. Unbelievable, he was officially fired and told to pack up and get out. Seeing how serious Fiona was, Sterling started to panic, trying to intervene. He argued she couldn't fire his employee without even consulting him first. But Fiona bluntly cut him off, stating she didn't care who Calen was. Serafina Tech had no place for anyone who disrespected women. She knew what Sterling wanted to say, but felt completely untouchable. The main matriarch had long retired, and the chairman himself was currently quite sick. Fiona believed her 10 years of loyal service would easily protect her. She wouldn't get in trouble over such a minor, trivial incident. Feeling completely secure, she looked over at Calen, who was still standing there. She coldly asked if he needed security to drag him out of the building. Hearing this, Linnea instantly smiled through her tears, looking at him with smug satisfaction. She smugly asks if he knows he was wrong. Calen just laughs coldly. He just swaggers out. Sterling panics, begging him to wait. Seeing that Calen won't stop, Sterling looks at Fiona in desperation. He asks her to look at the mess she's made, firing him just like that. Isn't she afraid of the old lady? Fiona looks completely indifferent. She says the old lady stepped back ages ago, making Sterling furious. He decides to wash his hands of it, muttering that she fired him. If the old lady asks, it has absolutely nothing to do with him. Back in the office, Calen starts packing. His colleague Barnaby is stunned. Barnaby asks what's going on, so Calen explains everything exactly as it happened. Once Barnaby understands, he's absolutely furious and wants to go raise hell. But Calen holds him back, telling him to forget it given the powerful status of Fiona. She is the favorite of the chairman, so firing a simple intern is as easy as breathing. Calen turns around with a faint smile, telling his friend to work hard, adding that if he can't find work, he'll have to rely on him for food. Barnaby sighs helplessly, supporting his friend won't be a problem. Later, when Calen goes to return the keys, Sterling hesitates to speak. After a long silence, he finally pats Calen on the shoulder, apologizing sincerely. Fiona has a close relationship with the chairman, leaving Sterling completely helpless. He tells Calen to rest while he tries to arrange things. He promises to contact the company of a friend to find him a decent job. Honestly, Sterling is calculating like crazy here. He needs to play his cards right. He knows Calen has a connection to the old lady, even if he's fired. If the old lady intervenes later, doing him a favor now is a smart move. Calen feels a bit moved by the gesture, thanking him as he leaves. But down at the lobby, his annoying ex-Linnea is actually waiting for him. Calen doesn't even spare her a glance, just bypassing her to keep walking. She blocks his path, looking totally smug and asking if he regrets it now. Calen stops, looking at her sideways, calmly asking what exactly he should regret. She gloats that it's too late, but offers to help if he becomes her boyfriend. She'll get her aunt to let him stay so he doesn't end up jobless. Calen cuts her off immediately, saying his only regret is being too gentle. The face of Linnea twists in pure rage as she stammers, completely shocked by his words. She can barely squeeze out a word before tearing up from sheer anger. Calen, however, is in a fantastic mood, completely unbothered by her tears. He hums a tune as he swaggers away, but reality quickly sets in. Just yesterday, he confidently promised his wife that his salary could support them. He told her she could just relax at home while he handled everything. Now in the blink of an eye, he's fired. Talk about a truly brutal wake-up call. With a heavy sigh, he wanders the streets, trying to figure out his next move. He decides not to tell his wife Serafina about losing his job just yet. Her health is poor, and telling her would only cause unnecessary worry. With his mind made up, Calen heads straight to the local job market. He starts hitting up companies one by one, desperate to find anything. By chance, the cousin of his wife, Valerie, drives right past. Valerie peers through her car window, spotting Calen walking in with a deep frown. What is he doing here? Suspicious, Valerie parks her car and quietly begins. Following him, realizing he is just there job hunting, she is completely stunned. She originally wants to go up and ask him what happened. But she ultimately changes her mind, calling Serafina directly instead. Meanwhile, Calen spends the entire day at the job market, stubbornly waiting. Waiting until normal clock-out time, he heads home and stands at the door. He takes a deep breath before opening the door and calling out, "Wifey, I am home." His voice sounds incredibly upbeat, showing absolutely no signs of being unemployed. Sitting on the sofa reading a book, Serafina sees him return and puts it down. She looks up, tentatively asking him why he is home so late today. Late, Calen feigns confusion, asking if this is not his usual time to get off. He says he only gets off work at 6. "Wifey, let me tell you about my crazy day." He babbles on, racking his brain to invent all sorts of fake office stories. He talks while changing shoes, trying his best to act perfectly normal. At first, Serafina is slightly puzzled, but she quickly realizes what is happening. She knows her husband just does not want her to worry after being fired. He is secretly job hunting, trying to shoulder the entire burden alone. Thinking of this, Serafina feels a lump in her throat, deeply moved by him. And honestly, can you blame her? Fiona has absolutely gone way too far. Later that night, Calen washes Serafina's feet, gently massaging them before she falls asleep. He, however, lies awake, unable to drift off until well past midnight. Once he is fast asleep, Serafina opens her eyes in the quiet darkness. "Do not be afraid," she whispers very softly, "because I am right here." Next morning, Calen forces a highly energetic smile, saying he is off to work. Serafina smiles and waves, telling him to be careful and that she will be waiting. But the moment Calen steps outside, his cheerful smile completely crumbles into a heavy sigh. He has to play the humble beggar at the job market again, all for his wife. He has to go all out. By morning, the local job market is already incredibly packed. Squeezing into the massive crowd, he hands out his resume left and right. He is so incredibly busy that he does not even notice his phone ringing. Meanwhile, over at the Serafina Biological Tech Group, things are getting tense. Why is he not answering? Fiona glares at her screen, absolutely seething. Firing a lowly intern seemed like nothing, but she never expected what came next. She received an urgent phone call from the company chairman in the dead of night. The usually gentle chairman completely lost her temper, demanding his immediate return. She was ordered to get him back at all costs, despite no reasons given. If she fails this task, Fiona can easily sense the consequences will be dire. She knows very well that screw-ups here mean her career is basically over. Fiona even tried to dig into Calen's background, but received only a stern warning. "Find him immediately," they yelled, before abruptly hanging up the phone on her. Left with no other choice, she keeps dialing his number, but nothing goes through. The more Fiona thinks about this mess, the more incredibly agitated she becomes. Slamming her hand onto the desk, she commands a staff member standing nearby. "Go bring that marketing guy named Barnaby into my office right now." He was completely lost, but hurried right over without any delay. "Director, were you looking for me? Can you contact Calen?" Barnaby froze. Why search for Calen after firing him so ruthlessly? Wasn't kicking him out of the company enough? What else does she want? Dragging him back for more punishment is just straight-up bullying. Fiona snapped that she had business and needed him found immediately. Her cold voice snapped Barnaby back, but a wave of anger hit. He pointed out that her niece liked Calen, not the other way. He rejected her cleanly without playing games, so why pursue him further? Fiona's face burned with sudden shame at his words. Deep down, she knew she was in the absolute wrong here. But she had no children, and Linnea was like her own daughter. She hated seeing her hurt, but things had gone way too far. Now the chairman wanted him back, leaving her in total panic. Her reputation was shot, but she still had to deliver the news. Fiona took a deep breath, trying to force herself to stay calm. She claimed it was strictly business and not a personal vendetta against him. She just needed a call, but Barnaby flatly refused to help. He knew she just wanted to humiliate him, making Fiona nearly explode with rage. She choked back her rage, speaking through clenched teeth instead. She was actually inviting him back to work, not trying to mock him. Was she serious? Barnaby asked if this was some kind of trick. He needed proof, and Fiona reluctantly gave a painful nod of confirmation. Relieved, Barnaby smiled and happily dialed Calen's number right away. Meanwhile, over at the busy job market, Calen had already visited 10 different companies. Every single one of them told him to go home and wait for news. As he considered delivery driving to survive, his phone suddenly started ringing. He answered Barnaby, who immediately yelled, "Calen, where the hell are you?" Calen sighed, telling him he was obviously hunting for jobs to make money. He had a wife to support, after all. Barnaby just rolled his eyes. He ordered Calen back to the office immediately. Meanwhile, Fiona summoned Linnea to her office, who instantly asked what was wrong. Fiona snapped back, asking how she could even have the nerve to ask that. She had so much pent-up anger and unleashed it completely on her. The chairman's furious words kept echoing, making her feel incredibly stressed out. She had no idea what kind of backing Calen actually had behind him. For a gentle boss to get this mad was completely unreal. She almost suspected Calen was a sugar baby kept by the chairman. Linnea was incredibly spoiled, so her eyes welled up with tears immediately. She sobbed that her aunt was the one who told her to chase him. Fiona slammed her hand down, asking if this hot mess was her idea of pursuit. He said he was married, Fiona yelled, but Linnea refused to believe it. Linnea lifted her chin, arguing he had no couple photos online. She believed he was lying, making Fiona almost vomit blood in frustration. Linnea then got curious, asking what was actually going on with him now. She already fired him, so why bring him up again? Fiona sighed heavily. She suppressed her anger that Caden clearly had some massive backing. The chairman called her that exact night, ordering his immediate return. If she cannot get him back, she might as well retire, Linnea gasped. The chairman, suddenly, Linnea's eyes gleamed with a massive urge to gossip. She remembered the chairman was unmarried, since Caden was so handsome. She wondered if he was a secret sugar baby the boss kept. Caden had rejected a coworker's delusional confession and got fired for it. But nobody knew his wife, who just woke up from a coma, was the CEO. She had not shown her face at the company in a very long time. The director who fired Caden was about to face absolute chaos. She got a furious midnight call directly from the CEO demanding explanations. Listening to Barnaby's shocking news over the phone, Caden froze in disbelief. Fired yesterday and invited back today, this company was full of psychos. Still, Barnaby urged him to take the chance and hurry back to work. He wanted his gaming buddy back for their usual lunch breaks. Caden muttered a few vague words and hung up, completely lost in thought. What was Fiona really planning, or was Linnea trying to salvage her own pride? Either way, finding another decent job was going to be incredibly difficult. After weighing his options, Caden made up his mind right then and there. He refused to go crawling back just to face more humiliation. Meanwhile, back in the finance office, Linnea was practically bursting with gossip. She reminded her aunt that the chairman had also remained single. Since Caden was incredibly handsome, she suspected he was her sugar baby. The more she rambled, the more convinced she became of her theory. Otherwise, how could a brand new hire get a private office and car? Not to mention his high salary, Fiona snapped that it was impossible. She had worked closely with the chairman for years and knew her well. Besides, if the boss had those desires, she wouldn't be depressed. Hearing this, Linnea curled her lip but still shrugged it off. But since the chairman wanted him back, she could just call him. The company benefits were so amazing, he would surely come running. He would wag his tail and beg for his job back. She already called, but he ignored her completely. Fiona glared at Linnea, reminding her she caused this mess. It was her responsibility to bring him back by any means. He had to be back at work by tomorrow morning. No matter how much she doted on her, her career came first. Linnea was utterly stunned. She protested that she had offended him, but Fiona demanded an apology. Fiona cut her off immediately and kicked her out of the office. Later that afternoon, Barnaby was waiting in the office for Caden. Instead of his buddy, he got someone else entirely. It was Linnea who walked through the door with attitude. She sneered, asking if he was Caden's friend. Barnaby is startled, but instantly realizes exactly who she is. What a delusional princess, he thinks, as Linnea frowns impatiently. Where is Calen, she demands. Didn't my aunt tell him to return? Why hasn't he shown up all day? Call him immediately. Barnaby laughs out of pure, absolute exasperation. Sorry, he says, no time. In that moment, he finally understood why Calen refused to return. Seriously, who could actually tolerate that kind of bossy, entitled attitude? Linnea gets incredibly angry seeing this. Her aunt already gave the order, yet Calen still refuses to return. Does he think having connections makes him so amazing? Barnaby sneers, telling her that it absolutely makes him amazing. After all, her aunt is only a finance director. Yet she uses that authority to play the tyrant and harass colleagues. She gasps in shock. Linnea stomps her feet in pure fury, claiming she does not care. She demands that he call Calen right now to get back to work. Barnaby rolls his eyes, refusing to listen. What is she going to do about it? He challenges, have her aunt fire him too. Barnaby is taking an incredibly hard line with her now. He refuses to back down. Fiona had fired Calen so quickly, yet now desperately wanted him back. At a critical juncture like this, would she really dare? Fire him too, unsurprisingly, Linnea is absolutely fuming. Her lungs practically explode with rage, but she dares not threaten him. She can only grit her teeth and storm out. Barnaby immediately pulls out his phone and calls Calen. He asks Calen why he did not return to the company. That delusional princess came looking for him today, telling Barnaby to call him back to work. Is he actually planning to throw away a good job and never return? When Calen received Barnaby's call, he had just walked out of the talent market. Hearing his friend's words, he lets out a bitter sneer. Why should he go back? Does he not have any real dignity to protect? He knows Fiona wants him back mostly because that delusional princess threw tantrum, wanting to give him a little taste of sweetness, returning now. Under these conditions means completely bowing down to their every whim. He refuses to play their little game, so to hell with that. Barnaby sighs, half joking that he will have to support his friend now. But seriously, it does not look like they wanted him as a sugar baby. He tells Calen to just return first and see. Calen curls his lip. If she wasn't drooling over his handsome looks, would she ever bow her head? He is definitely not going back, even if he has to deliver takeout. At the very least, supporting his family will not be a problem. Barnaby sighs, telling him to just hold on until he gets his next paycheck. His friend promises to split his pay. He just laughs, holding him to it. Realizing it is getting late, he rushes straight home. He tries to act perfectly calm, desperately inventing fake office stories at the table. Anything to distract Serafina, but she sees right through him. His strange behavior is painfully obvious. Later, while he washes the dinner dishes, a text is sent. The next morning, he leaves like usual, pretending to work. But right outside the gate, his phone rings with an unexpected call. It is Barnaby. His friend sounds completely and utterly desperate. "Get over here right now and save me," Barnaby begs. Our guy freezes. What happened? Well, Fiona is standing right outside his door. She is completely blocking the exit and refuses to let him leave. That is it. Fiona will not drop this until they face each other. And if he messes up, his poor friend takes the fall. No time to waste. He hails a cab and rushes over. Pulling up, he spots Barnaby crouching by an Audi with a miserable face. Spotting him, Barnaby leaps up like he just saw a savior. "Thank goodness you finally made it," Barnaby whispers as our guy shushes him. "Where is she?" Barnaby simply points a trembling chin toward the Audi. "Pray for yourself," Barnaby mutters, "because I am going to work." Before our guy can even reply, his buddy bolts like a madman. Talk about zero loyalty, but look who finally decides to show her face. Fiona rolls down the window. "Get in," she demands. Talk about attitude. He rolls his eyes, begging this auntie to leave him alone. He packed up and left, so she needs to stop harassing him. Being called auntie instantly turns Fiona's face a furious shade of iron. For a split second, she looks ready to run him over. But she holds back, squeezing her words through gritted teeth. "Get in the car," she snaps. He asks if her niece is inside. He checks the back seat. He never even touched her niece. She claimed he bullied her. If they both try to frame him now, even jumping into the legendary river won't be enough to wash his name clean. Fiona is about to explode. "I am the only one in here." She demands he get in to talk about returning to the company. "This has absolutely nothing to do with Linnea," she insists. Our guy raises an eyebrow, skeptical about her sudden promises. Even if she is not forcing it, he will never accept her. Fiona is on the verge of going completely berserk, repeating herself. Seeing her flush bright red, he hesitates and thinks it over. He finally gets inside because he cannot let Barnaby suffer. The moment he sits, Fiona slams the gas, launching the car forward. He is startled. "Hey, are you trying to murder-suicide me?" "Can you just shut up?" "Fine," he says, "focus on driving." Once they are far away, the heavy silence finally begins to clear. Fiona takes a deep breath, trying hard to calm herself down. "Why didn't you return to work?" she asks, as he just sighs. He bit his lip. A true man can be killed, but never humiliated. Returning now meant bowing down. Would returning mean bowing down? They were using a job to force him to date. What if they actually forced him to marry her next? He could never swallow that kind of insult. Fiona closed her eyes, her teeth grinding in sheer frustration. "Just return to work," she urged. She guaranteed that Linnea would absolutely never harass him again. She would not even show her face. Was that enough? He remained pretty skeptical. Was she actually asking him to return? Was this really not a trap to force the dating? Little did he know, Fiona was actually just as puzzled by the whole situation. Why would the work-obsessed chairman suddenly care so much about some young kid? Why on earth would she suddenly care so much about some young kid fresh out of society? Fiona quickly shook her head, immediately tossing that absolutely ridiculous thought right out of her mind. Others did not know, but she understood her completely. Expecting her to date, harder than a dead tree blooming. Especially since the target was a hot-headed kid like him, it made absolutely no sense. Fiona sighed heavily and told him to just come back, admitting her past mistakes. She offered a direct apology. Hearing this, he actually started thinking it over. Honestly, he really needed the work, and the position at Serafina Tech was absolutely perfect for him. But he had to ask if she was absolutely sure her niece would not harass him. Fiona squeezed out the words she was sure. She promised to transfer her. As soon as they returned, she would transfer Linnea so she would never bother him again. Only then did he finally let out a small sigh of relief. That sounded much better. He told her she could drive him back to the company right now. He was kicked out before, but now he was returning in her personal car. He got his pride and dignity back. Not a bad deal at all. Fiona stayed quiet. She took a deep breath, letting the car fall into a pretty awkward silence. He did not feel awkward at all. Instead, he was busy inspecting the luxury Audi he sat in. After looking around, he decided it was not as good as the SU7. Thinking of that SU7, he immediately asked about the company car they gave him. Since he was officially back, he wanted to know if that car was still his. Fiona held back her anger, telling him that the vehicle was indeed still completely his. He had only resigned for a day, yet the chairman had called repeatedly. They could not risk denying him the vehicle. What exactly was his connection to the boss? Fiona racked her brain, trying to figure out their exact relationship. Suddenly, a completely wild thought hit her as she calculated his age. Could this kid actually be some secret child the chairman had when she was young? Shocked by her own theory, she whipped her head around to look at him. He happened to look back. Meeting his clear, handsome eyes made her face grow completely hot. In a sudden panic, Fiona quickly turned away to avoid his direct gaze. Meanwhile, he was silently thinking to himself about her surprisingly youthful and very elegant appearance. Fiona was 40, but she somehow looked like she was in her early 30s. Still, compared to his extremely beautiful and precious wife, she was definitely several tiers lower. Thinking of his gorgeous wife Serafina, he could not help but smile warmly. Seeing his sudden smile, Fiona felt her heart skip a beat and immediately panicked inside. She scolded herself, wondering what on earth she was actually thinking. After all, he was just some young kid fresh out of school. Why was she even thinking about the chairman's son? Fiona quickly brushed it off. But she could not help staring at Calen again, prompting him to frown. Just focus on driving, he warns. Stop staring before we actually crash. Startled, Fiona jerks her gaze away and scrambles for an excuse. She stammers that she was only checking the rearview mirror, not him. Then she quickly pivots, asking him where his hometown is. Calen immediately goes on high alert, instantly seeing right through her. She claimed she was not matchmaking, yet here she was digging straight into his background. But he will never submit because he already has a gorgeous wife of his own. She is gentle, beautiful, and looks like a literal fairy from heaven. She is light years ahead of Fiona's spoiled brat of a niece. Fiona turns red, then pale, silently cursing her niece Linnea for this mess. She snaps that she was just making small talk and will transfer Linnea. Fiona demands to know what on earth he is so incredibly worried about. Calen finally lets out a sigh of relief, admitting he is from Cheng County. Fiona is instantly shocked because Cheng County is the chairman's hometown too. If she remembers correctly, the chairman's family originally came from there. They only relocated to Binhai City much later, making this connection highly suspicious. Wait, could this Calen actually be the biological son of the chairman? But the chairman still looks like a young girl nearing 30. Nothing about her physique or attitude suggests she ever had a child. Completely baffled, Fiona presses further, asking him for his parents' names. That is the final straw. Calen instantly grows anxious at the prying. Seriously, first his hometown, now his parents. Talk about a complete interrogation. Fiona realizes she crossed a line and feels a mix of embarrassment and anger. That troublesome niece of hers has truly made her lose all respect. Calen rolls his eyes, deciding to de-escalate slightly with a heavy sigh. He tells her to transfer the girl first before asking scary questions. Exasperated, Fiona shuts her mouth and drives in silence the rest of the way. The moment they arrive, Calen steps out and immediately draws a crowd. Peak clock-in hour, everyone is rushing to get inside. Seeing him back at the office sends a ripple of shock through the crowd. Whispers erupt immediately, wondering why the legendary marketing newbie is back. Wasn't he fired yesterday? Why is he stepping out of the director's car? The Iron Maiden herself went out to bring him back to the company. They wonder what insane background he has, or if he finally caved in. After all, setting her temper aside, the little princess is quite a catch. The endless gossip makes Fiona's expression turn incredibly dark and cold. Calen gets out, then casually pokes his head back inside the window. He reminds her to transfer her niece, making her grind her teeth. She snaps that she doesn't need his reminder, deeply regretting everything. She miscalculated badly. She should have just parked in the underground lot. Once Fiona drives off, a curious colleague immediately runs over to him. He asks if Calen is actually back, and Calen simply nods. The colleague instantly gives him a thumbs up, an absolute legend. A colleague teases him about being on his back foot, especially since the Iron Maiden personally picked him up. They ask what the deal is, wondering if he agreed to be the little princess's boyfriend. He just grins and shakes his head, scoffing that even if he starves to death, he would never date someone like her. The colleague gasps, not the little princess. Their eyes widen, asking if he actually hooked up with the Iron Maiden instead. Meanwhile, at this moment, as Calen walks back in, he has no clue. Prepare for things to explode. The finance department has exploded. Linnea is furious about being transferred to a branch office. She stares at Fiona, shocked and furious, demanding on what grounds she would do this. Fiona is deeply agitated, asking who told her to go around offending the wrong people. Calen made it clear that if she wants him back at work, he can never see Linnea in the building again. If she does not go to the branch office, does she want to get fired instead? Fiona is completely losing her temper by this point, already frustrated by rumors that she is keeping Calen as some sort of sugar baby, and her own niece is only adding to the nightmare. Linnea snaps right back, screaming about who Calen even thinks he is. He is just a new intern, while Fiona is a veteran, whom even the chairman treats like a sister. How can she possibly be afraid of some low-level intern? Saying this, Linnea's eyes narrow as she looks at Fiona. Or is the gossip actually true? Does Fiona actually have the hots for Calen too? But before she can finish sentence, a heavy slap lands on her face. Shut your mouth, Fiona is trembling with absolute rage. Fiona is unmarried and treated Linnea like her own biological daughter, paying for her education and guiding her career. And now she repays her with disgusting accusations. Does she have any conscience? Linnea is completely stunned by the slap, yelling that she hates her before turning to run, but Fiona grabs her firmly. She accepts that she failed to raise her properly in the past, but today she demands a straight answer. Is she going to resign, or is she going to the branch office? Fiona sees things clearly now. This niece is completely unreliable, and now, protecting her own career is all that matters. Linnea glares at her aunt with tearful, hateful eyes, declaring that she quits. With that, she turns and walks away, but after a few steps she spins around to glare at Fiona, snapping that she knows Fiona just thinks Calen is handsome, chasing her own niece away for him. She hates her. Watching Linnea slam the door, Fiona collapses into her chair as if all her strength has been entirely drained, a bitter smile creeping onto her face. The logic of a generosity only breeds bitter resentment. She sees this painful reality with absolute clarity today. After catching her breath, Fiona picks up her phone and dials a number, reporting to the chairman that Calen has returned to work. After explaining everything, she pinches the bridge of her nose. Ultimately, she cannot resist asking about Calen's true identity. The other end remains completely silent for a long moment before telling her not to interfere anymore, unless he makes a major mistake. The chairman does not want to see this happen. Again, hearing this, Fiona completely freezes before she can even say another word. The line goes dead. Just like that, the weekend arrives. Calen and Serafina prepare to head to the hospital for her follow-up checkup. Today, Serafina wears a white knit sweater and pink trousers, her entire being radiating an absolute aura of. Looking at her, Calen simply cannot help but doubt himself once again. Did he actually stay single all these years because he preferred older women? When they get downstairs, a kid comes charging right over, and before Calen can even dodge, the boy trips and falls, instantly bursting into loud, painful wails. Serafina is startled. Calen immediately helps the boy up. He tells him to stop crying, since a real man does not cry over tiny falls. The boy must not drop those little pearls, immediately breaking into a bright smile. Thank you, big brother. Watching him run back, Serafina unexpectedly feels a sliver of yearning in her heart, seeing him act so incredibly gently toward the child just now stirs something within her. She blurts out, subconsciously asking Calen if he likes kids. Calen pauses, instinctively wanting to say he does, but looking at the sweat on Serafina's forehead and her slightly pale face, he cannot help but sigh and shake his head, answering that he does not. With Serafina's fragile physical condition, having a child is out of the question for at least 2 years. She is too weak and simply cannot bear the risks of pregnancy. Hearing his answer, Serafina feels a bit disappointed, murmuring that he does not. Calen hurriedly grabs her hand, asking what is so good about kids. They are noisy and they waste time and money. Gold-swallowing beasts are no joke. Serafina does not want to force him, so she follows his lead, changing the subject. The two of them soon arrive at the busy hospital. As they get out of the car, they see Alora and Valerie waiting. Serafina is quite surprised. Seeing this, Calen explains that he sent them a message beforehand. She is here for a follow-up, and they are always worried about her health, so they came along. Alora immediately asks how her body is feeling now, holding Serafina's hands and looking her up and down continuously, ever since Serafina moved in with Calen, wanting to experience a quiet, private, two-person world. Alora has not disturbed them, only calling occasionally to chat. Valerie teases from the side, pointing out that Serafina's face has much more healthy color now, proving Calen has been taking great care of her. Calen feels a bit shy, saying taking care of his wife is completely natural. The group chats and laughs as they enter the hospital. The follow-up requires a full-body checkup. Alora and Valerie accompany Serafina, while Calen runs around paying fees and picking up medicine. Valerie sighs with emotion, asking Serafina how she feels after living together all this time. Serafina's face flushes, answering with bashful shyness that it is pretty good, and of course the teasing starts immediately. Valerie giggles, asking how she actually knows how to be shy now, completely different from the aloof female chief executive of the past. Alora also joins in the laughter. Serafina feels even more embarrassed, but Valerie has absolutely no intention of letting her off the hook. She suddenly lowers her voice, asking if they sleep together at night now. Serafina, startled, instantly lowering her head as her ears and neck turn completely red, her voice dropping so low it is almost completely inaudible. What is she even talking about? This is serious business, Valerie says, grabbing her hand with a dead serious look. Even though they are husband and wife now, her body is still weak while Calen is young and strong. You absolutely cannot mess around, Valerie warns her with heavy gravity, adding that she cannot just throw caution to the wind after a few sweet words. If she gets pregnant, how could her weak body handle it? Alora also realizes the severity of the situation and nods. Your cousin is right, Serafina, she says. Other things can slide, but she must pay attention. If you ask me, until her body is fully recovered, the young couple still needs to sleep in separate rooms. With the two of them lecturing her, Serafina cannot even lift her head. She stammers out, "Mom, cousin, what nonsense is this?" Although Calen and she share a bed, he respects her completely, but as Serafina says this, her mind flashes with hot, vivid memories. During this time, every single night Calen would wash her feet, massage her, and hold her tight. Despite rare moments of intense infatuation, he always managed to hit the brakes, yet she is the one left thinking about those heated moments that left her teased and hanging. Serafina is instantly too flustered to speak, her fingers twisting her shirt hem to pieces. Laura and Valerie exchange a quick glance, both seeing pure disbelief in each other's eyes. Before they can grill her further, they spot Calen jogging over, calling out that the test results are ready and the doctor wants them. Amnesty granted, Serafina springs up, hurriedly linking her arm through his. Watching her scramble away, Alora and Valerie spontaneously share a knowing smile. Her test results are absolutely perfect, incredibly perfect. Even the doctor is a bit shocked, pointing directly at the x-rays as he speaks. Based on this, he says, at most half a month and she'll be completely free of that wheelchair, able to run and jump like a normal person. Alora and Valerie tear up. It's wonderful news, and even Serafina is completely blindsided with joy. Her dark, suicidal thoughts are completely gone now. She wants to live, to be with him forever, and she even secretly wants to bear him a child. Her body's recovery means all of this is finally possible. Honestly, you can't blame him for worrying, as he leans in to ask for extra tonics. He's worried her immune system is still too weak. Hearing this concern, the doctor looks up. His expression turns pretty stern. He warns that young people are far too impatient. Medicine has its limits and carries some toxicity, meaning she must recover slowly. Serafina's pretty face flushes bright red. She shoots him a shy, reproachful glance before looking back at the doctor. Without words, the doctor completely gets the message. In her eyes, he nods helplessly, promising a new prescription to nourish her chi and blood. Remember to pick it up later. Serafina's face flushes a deep red as she tightly squeezes his arm in embarrassment. Seeing this, Alora and Valerie lock eyes, realizing exactly what is happening. After he went to grab the medicine, Valerie was the first to Speak, teasing Sarah that she had completely set her heart on him. Serafina did not answer. She simply gave a tiny, silent nod, leaving Valerie. Valerie's face grew serious as she spoke up. She and Alora could both see Calen was sincere. But life is not a game, and since Serafina had already made up her mind, she needed to think about the future. With those words, Valerie pulled out a document. "What is this?" Serafina asked, taking the papers with a startle as Valerie explained she had run a background check on Calen, and his family was not exactly rich, but before Valerie could even finish her sentence, she was cut off. Serafina smiled shyly, saying she already knew his background and there was no need to investigate. She would find out why in the future. Valerie froze, her brows furrowing in concern. Even putting his family aside, what about her own identity? When and how did she plan to break the news to him? Serafina smiled softly. There was no rush, and they could take things slowly because she did not want people calling him a gold digger. For now, her true identity would stay a secret. Valerie let out a sigh of relief. Honestly, you can't really blame her for worrying. It was a relief to know Serafina wasn't just completely blinded by a sudden rush of love. Serafina nudged her cousin playfully, asking if she really thought so little of her. Valerie teased back, saying she never expected a powerful female CEO to blush and act shy. Serafina pouted, warning her cousin that she would stop talking to her if she kept teasing. Valerie laughed at how easily Serafina got embarrassed, but as they joked around, Laura suddenly spoke up, her serious expression cutting right through the laughter. She told Serafina there was something else they needed to discuss, her solemn tone making Serafina quite nervous. She really hoped her mother and Calen would get along. Laura gently took Serafina's hands in hers and began to speak with deep sincerity. She admitted that when she first approached Calen, he seemed reluctant to agree to marriage meant just to ward off bad luck, but he ultimately accepted the proposal, simply out of pure kindness for an old woman, and since then, he had not only taken incredible care of her, but had even flat out refused to accept the remaining $900,000. They absolutely could not mistreat a man like that. Hearing her mother, the heavy weight on Serafina's heart finally lifted. She assured her mom not to worry, prompting Valerie to chime in with another tease. Valerie laughed, saying Alora was worrying for nothing since Serafina wanted to give him her entire fortune anyway. Valerie was about to say more, but then she spotted Calen approaching with the medicine. Instantly changing her tune, she chuckled that she would not get in the way of the newlyweds' date any longer. Leaving the hospital, Calen held Serafina's hand and suggested taking advantage of the beautiful weather to go up to Bayan Mountain to enjoy the fresh mountain scenery together. Serafina smiled and happily nodded. Now that she had recovered quite a bit, she really wanted to go outdoors. On the way there, the car was filled with endless laughter. Soon, they arrived at the mountain. Holding hands tightly, they slowly started walking up the quiet trail. Since it was Sunday, the entire path was packed with eager climbers, including families with young children. The whole atmosphere felt incredibly bright and lively. Holding Calen's hand tightly, Serafina suddenly recalled the last time she had come here with Valerie. Back then, she was still so unsure about whether she should even give Calen a chance. Her heart filled with total confusion. But now they were officially together and had been happily sharing a home for quite some time. A wave of pure sweetness washed over her, but right at that very moment, Calen let go of her hand, quickening his pace. Startled, Serafina could only watch him bend down, picking up a small surprise from the roadside. When he returned, he held a small pink flower, reaching out to gently tuck it behind Serafina's ear. She lowered her head, suddenly shy. He admired his lovely masterpiece, teasingly asking if she knew what was on his mind. She was far more delicate than any flower. Playfully teased, they continued hiking up the mountain, chatting and laughing. Soon they reached Ningran Temple. Serafina was already out of breath, making his heart ache. He suggested they rest. She nodded, but the very next second, everything changed. She shook her head vigorously, grabbing his hand and pulling him aside. He was utterly startled. Before he could ask what was wrong, Serafina tightly embraced him, tilting her head up and kissing him. Onlookers stared, some glanced sidelong, but most smiled. It is, after all, quite common for young couples to kiss while hiking, but Calen froze completely. She pried his teeth open, making his body stiffen. Though they shared a bed and quick kisses, it was always him taking the lead. Serafina had always been incredibly shy. An intense moment like this was A total first, his initial shock lasted only a second before he wrapped his arms tightly around her waist and passionately took back control. Just as they were getting lost in the kiss, a nearby husband noticed. Tapped his wife, asking if that woman looked like their company chairman. The wife glanced over and scolded him, although the girl looked similar. Their chairman was not that thin, and she was currently in the hospital. Besides, the chairman cared deeply about her image. She would never do this in broad daylight. Hearing that, the husband dropped the subject. Continuing their walk, he agreed he must have just been mistaken. Once that family walked far away, Serafina finally let go of him. The prolonged kiss left her breathless, her face looking quite pale. Calen was overjoyed, happily asking why she was suddenly so proactive. She leaned weakly against him, speaking with obvious difficulty. She softly asked to go home, wishing to head down. He nodded. Without hesitation, offering to carry her. The next day, he entered the office when a knock came, announcing the general manager wanted to see him. As the beautiful secretary walked away, Calen stood there completely baffled, but his friend Barnaby immediately perked up with excitement. Barnaby joked that even the boss had fallen under his spell. Earning a sharp glare, Calen ignored the nonsense and headed to see the GM. Barnaby yelled, reminding him not to forget his bros if he got rich. Calen quickened his pace, heading to the 9th floor. Where the office was, waiting for the elevator, his thoughts drifted to the company chairman, who shared the exact same name as his wife. He never expected such an unbelievable coincidence to actually exist. When he first heard his wife's name, he thought she just shared a name with his mother's best friend. Only after seeing her in person did he realized they were the same person. With a ding, he snapped. Calen snaps out of his thoughts and hurries outside, where he spots a secretary walking his way. She introduces herself as Maya, the general manager's assistant, and tells him to just call her Maya. He nods, tentatively greeting her in return. He asks what the manager wants, but Maya only offers a knowing smile. She tells him he will find out soon, promising it is actually good news. With that, she leads him inside and knocks on the general manager's door. Announcing Calen's arrival, she waits. A cool, clear voice from inside tells them to enter. Stepping inside, Calen notices a polished woman around 30, sitting quietly behind her desk. She is buried in her work, her tanned fingers flying across the keyboard with a rapid clattering sound. Calen is instantly amazed by her focus. He cannot believe the general manager is this young and incredibly hardworking. No wonder she climbed the ranks so fast. Calen silently looks around the spacious room. The general manager, Veronica Thorne, keeps typing, but she's watching him out of the corner of her eye. The more she looks, the more confused she gets. She wonders what exactly this kid did to win the ultimate favor of the chairman. It cannot just be his good looks, though she has to admit he is incredibly handsome. She wonders if the chairman is actually into guys like him. Veronica mutters to herself as Calen finishes checking out her office. Feeling her intense gaze, he looks up just in time to catch her watching. Their eyes lock, and he silently admits that Veronica is incredibly pretty. Veronica quickly masks her expression and calmly asks him about his work. She asks how he is adapting to his role in the marketing department. Calen thanks her for the concern and says everything is going great. But while he answers, he quietly tries to guess her true intentions. Suddenly, Veronica's face grows incredibly serious, catching him off guard. She explains that with the struggling economy, all departments are under massive pressure. His heart completely skips a beat. Honestly, who wouldn't panic here? He nervously asks if she is setting him up to get fired today. Veronica immediately shakes her head, telling him he has completely misunderstood her. She reveals she brought him in because the company wants to expand. The board decided to launch a brand new department for direct, in-house sales. Calen pieces it together instantly, asking if she means live streaming e-commerce. Veronica nods with approval, praising him for catching on so quickly. Calen chuckles and humbly plays it down, feeling a bit flattered. But he asks why she is telling him all this instead of someone else. When she nods and confirms his suspicions, Calen is completely dumbfounded. Dumbfounded, he quickly refused, having never touched anything like this before. Besides, running live streaming e-commerce meant they definitely needed to hire influencers. Nobody would buy from him. Absolute nobody with zero fanbase like him. However, Veronica looked quite surprised, saying the company really did not misjudge him. He pinpointed The core issue in one sentence, proving he was highly suited to head the e-commerce department, talk about a massive sudden upgrade. He asked if she was joking. Is it really that easy? He was just a fresh graduate with absolutely zero experience. He is suddenly skipping steps to become a department head. Quite a shock. But Veronica just leans back, looking completely unbothered. She reassures him. The decision was unanimously approved by the board, hearing her explain all the incoming details. He simply cannot believe his ears, unbeknownst to him. This brilliant move was actually first proposed by Fiona. At first, the executives thought the plan was completely absurd, but after she and marketing director Sterling laid out the situation, everyone immediately agreed. After all, a guy who could make the wealthy matriarch and the resting chairman personally step in was way too important to leave working as some low-level grunt in marketing. Right then, Veronica locks her gaze onto him, asking if he has thought it through. Thought it through, he almost blurts out yes without a single doubt, but instantly forces himself to stay calm. What if the company is facing some massive crisis and those old directors just want a quick scapegoat? Fearing the worst, he quickly claims he lacks the skills and declines the offer. He turns around, getting ready to walk out. Seeing this, Veronica panics. She suddenly stands up and tells him to wait, leaving him startled. Why is she getting so worked up? Will he get fired? Please do not go, Veronica pleads, rushing over to quickly grab his hand. She begs him to stay, and while speaking, she softly squeezes his hand twice. Her touch is surprisingly soft, and her warm grasp feels incredibly nice. He shivers. Could this usually aloof, high-end mighty manager with a cool vibe actually be hitting on him? Absolutely not. This has to be a mistake. Surely it is just an illusion. He pulls his hand back, asking her to speak. Veronica snaps out of her daze, her expression instantly returning to normal, telling him not to rush his refusal. She sits down on the sofa and casually pours him coffee. Just listen first, she says. Hear the benefits before making a final decision, since she is putting it so nicely. Saying no again would feel incredibly ungrateful. Watching him relent, Veronica lets out a sigh of relief and launches straight into an endless stream of details. 2.5 hours later, he slaps his thigh and finally agrees. The financial package is simply too good. An annual salary of $300,000 plus commission and dividends. After signing the new contract, Veronica nods happily. Excellent, starting today. He is officially the manager of the live streaming department. Furthermore, the entire 8th floor belongs to his division. If he needs anything, he can request it directly from finance. He still feels completely dazed. Did he honestly just get a massive promotion? Meanwhile, Veronica, having completed her mission, is in a fantastic mood, telling him to prepare. He feels like he is walking in a dream, but suddenly remembers a major problem. Wait, is she only going to give him a workspace and leave everything else unmanaged? Hearing this question, Veronica completely freezes up. Did she not say it? The entire division is his to run. What else is there for her to oversee? He gets incredibly anxious. There is literally just empty space, no equipment, no staff, nothing. But Veronica replied without hesitation that since he was the manager, he would manage it all. HR could easily handle the actual recruiting process. He was flabbergasted. Was it really that simple? The authority she offered him felt absolutely massive, prompting him to ask if he could actually recruit staff himself. Veronica nodded, saying as long as he thought they were suitable for the requirements, just as he wanted to say more. Maya walked in, announcing a meeting was starting soon. At 11 o'clock, seeing this, he tactfully walked out of the office. Watching his retreating back, Veronica could not help but sigh, whispering that young guys had truly amazing bodies. Soon, he got back to his office, still in a state of absolute bewilderment. Seeing him, Barnaby perked up immediately, joking that he looked completely soulless. Had he just finished some spicy role play with the general manager? Ignoring Barnaby's endless stream of dirty jokes, he collapsed into his desk chair. Barnaby sensed the mood, shouting in shock if he had actually hit the nail on the head, coming over to tug at his pants. He threw a quick punch, telling Barnaby to get lost since he just got promoted. Barnaby doubted his own ears, asking why he looked so completely exhausted and defeated. He glared at him, sighed deeply, and explained the entire crazy situation, exactly as it had happened. Barnaby was stunned, asking if the company really built a brand new department and put him entirely in charge. He nodded in agreement. The entire 8th floor was cleared out, and he could move in. Up there anytime, Barnaby let out a loud, sudden shout. "Son, no!" Barnaby lunged in, demanding the deputy manager position. With the two of them joining forces, they could definitely make a massive splash. He was in no mood to play along, pushing Barnaby away as he returned to his desk. Right now, his mind was completely consumed with what he had to do next, but the more he thought about it, the more clueless he felt, feeling completely drained. Barnaby easily guessed what was on his mind, taking the initiative to speak up after work. Seeing him so stressed, he suggested getting a drink tonight. He just rolled his eyes, telling Barnaby to go see his girlfriend since he had to go home to keep his wife company. Naturally, Barnaby did not believe a single word. Fooling strangers was one thing, but fooling his own brother, no way. He did not bother arguing. If Barnaby did not believe him, there was nothing he could do. All he wanted was to go home. Barnaby immediately demanded to finally meet her. He thought it over. Her health was pretty poor, but once she felt better, he promised to bring her out. This unexpected answer left Barnaby completely speechless. "You had better actually have a wife," Barnaby warned. He drove straight home. Seriously, have you ever felt that desperate urge to get back home? He needed to see Serafina. Deep down, he longed to hold her soft, fragrant body on the sofa. Her scent, it washed away every single trace of his negative emotions. Soon he arrived at the building. He quickly bought some gorgeous, small daisies. The florist near the entrance had them in every color, beautifully clustered together, blooming with a sweet, lovely floral scent. It instantly brightens his mood. Serafina opens the door and he hands them over. He asks if she likes them, sliding an arm around her waist. He holds her close, asking about dinner and saying he missed her deeply. Serafina blushes, protesting that they are still standing outside. But they are a married couple. Why should that stop him? He catches her completely off guard, planting a swift kiss on her cheek. Her face burns. She playfully beats his chest with her small fists. She glances around, terrified of being seen. Calen heads inside to wash up. Coming out, he spots Serafina scooping rice and dashes over instantly. He insists he should do the chores since her health is still fragile. She must rest, but Serafina playfully scolds him in return. She insists she is not some fragile glass vase, making Calen grin. He insists they must be careful because his heart would break if she got hurt. Serafina looks helpless, but her eyes are full of joy. Her heart feels incredibly warm. In her entire life, honestly, she had never experienced this kind of intense, protective care. Everyone always told her to be strong, independent, and reach the top. Only Calen stands guard, treating her like a truly priceless treasure. He picks up a tender piece of fish, urging her to eat. She instantly blushes, insisting that she can feed herself. But Calen really wants to do it, holding up the chopsticks expectantly. He begs her to take a bite of the best part. Unable to resist his playful begging, she blushes and opens up. The flavor of the fresh fish is incredibly delicious and satisfying. She squints her eyes in pure, kitten-like bliss. Calen watches her, his heart melting as he speaks up. He tells her she is too cute, a total feast for his eyes. Flustered again, she tells him to shut up and just eat. She places a spare rib into his bowl to quiet him down. But Calen makes absolutely no move to use his own chopsticks. Instead, he simply leans forward and opens his mouth for a bite. Serafina freezes, asking if he really needs to be fed. She asks if he has no shame, but Calen just grins back. He acts like getting fed by his wife is completely standard couple protocol. Since he fed her, she must feed him in return. When she refuses, he jokingly begs her like a totally spoiled child. He threatens to starve if she will not feed him. His whiny, dramatic voice leaves her both shy and laughing. Finally, she gives in to him, picking up a piece of meat to hold out. He bites down on the chopsticks immediately, refusing to let go. She tugs, their eyes meet. The air suddenly grows heavy. It is the first time she realizes how intense a blush can feel. The burning heat in his eyes makes her heart race even faster. Thankfully, Calen knows exactly when to stop teasing and let her breathe. Calen finally let go, wearing a look of pure satisfaction as he praised his wife. Totally shameless, Serafina was both shy and deeply flustered. Under the table, her foot stomped right onto his, a desperate bid to make him stop. But the soft stomp carried absolutely no threat. It only tickled Calen's heart. He He stayed silent, playfully hooking his foot around hers and refusing to ever let go. Feeling their skin touch, Serafina felt her cheeks burn. Her face flushed incredibly red as she struggled desperately to pull her foot back from him. They engaged in a secret, playful tussle right beneath the dining table. Finally, she could not take it anymore. She put on her fiercest face. She warned him that if he did not let her eat in peace, he would sleep in the study. Once dinner ended, Calen cleared the dishes and headed into the kitchen to wash up. Serafina followed him, standing quietly by the doorway to watch. While running the water, Calen teasingly asked if she just wanted to be near him. Since he worked during the day and only returned at night, he knew she missed him. Serafina immediately blushed deep red, snapped that his wild claim was absolute nonsense. Yet even as her mouth denied it, her eyes remained completely glued to him. Calen finished washing the dishes in a flash, wrapping his arms snugly around her waist. He guided her back to the cozy living room and flipped on the television. A dramatic reality dating show was playing, so he lovingly offered her a fresh cherry. Serafina was completely engrossed in the screen, mindlessly opening her mouth. She chewed and complained loudly about how much the ridiculous reality show infuriated her. Complaining about how one woman was gaslighting her husband, she called out another terrible partner. Yet neither of them would divorce, leaving her thoroughly frustrated by the toxic drama. Honestly, it is hilarious seeing her get so incredibly worked up over these television couples. Calen just held her close, listening dotingly while occasionally popping fresh fruit in her mouth. It took a long while for Serafina to finally snap back to reality. She looked down at the plate, realizing only 2 strawberries remained. Blushing deeply, she asked why he was not eating any of the sweet fruit himself. He lined in close, teasing that he was waiting for her to feed him. Giving him a playful glare, she picked up a strawberry and offered it. He opened his mouth, capturing both the ripe red strawberry and her delicate, soft fingers. A gentle flick of his tongue sent an electric jolt straight through her. Her entire body instantly went soft, filled with a sudden, shy panic. She begged him to let her go, so he slowly and dutifully released her delicate hand. He finished off the remaining strawberry in a few bites, pulling her close once more. Deeply kissing her, he completely swallowed her sudden, quiet gasp of surprise. After a lingering, passionate moment, Calen pulled back with measured restraint. Serafina slumped in his arms, her cheeks flushed pink. Calen immediately grew deeply worried, asking his fragile wife if she was feeling all right. Her poor health meant that even slight intimacy was too much to handle. Because of this, despite being married for a while, they had not taken the final step. Serafina did not speak, simply lifting her eyes to look at him. Her usually clear and bright eyes were now filled with a deep, lingering desire. Seeing this, Calen felt his heart leap, nearly losing his self-control. But reason prevailed, prompting him to take a deep breath and stand up. He offered to run some warm water for her feet, but right then, Serafina grabbed him. Puzzled, he turned back to face her. She did not say a word, her hands simply reached up. To his neck, trembling slightly, she leaned in, she kissed him. That sudden proactive move brought him pure joy. Still, he worried. He looked at her with concern, asking if she was okay. She looked shy but exasperated. Did she not know her body? That single sentence shattered his restraint, every last ounce of it. He muttered that she asked for this, then he scooped her. Up bridal style, straight to the bedroom, soft moonlight spilled in, casting a gentle glow on her flushed, breathtakingly beautiful face. That night he was incredibly gentle. He treated her like glass. Fragile, precious glass, he poured all his deep love into her. Despite his worries about her weak state, she bloomed beautifully. Just like a flower receiving water after a long, dry drought. Years of heavy struggle, and her vegetative state finally melted away. The next morning came. He woke up to find the bed empty. A sudden wave of panic hit him, but then the bedroom door swung open. Serafina walked in, carrying a tray filled with breakfast. No wheelchair in sight, she was walking on her own feet. Her face glowed with a healthy, radiant pink. She looked gorgeous. She sweetly noted that he was awake, her voice incredibly soft. He jumped straight out of bed, completely naked, but he did not care. He just spun her around in a tight, happy hug. She giggled, calling him an idiot, but buried her face in his shoulder. She teased that a little exercise must have accelerated her recovery. Hearing his usually quiet wife crack, a joke made him laugh. His childhood dream had not just come true, it was perfect. Over the next 2 weeks, his life felt like a fast rocket. At home, they were like love-struck teenagers, totally glued to each other. At work, he officially took charge of the active e-commerce department. One Wednesday, he was sitting in his newly renovated 8th-floor office. He was busy reviewing a promotional livestream draft on his desk, cross-referencing it with a market analysis file named video11inch.txt. Suddenly, Barnaby burst through the door, gasping heavily for breath. Barnaby chugged his water, gasping out that the chairman was back. The legendary chairman had been missing for months, but general manager Veronica just announced an emergency meeting in the main conference room. He was told to attend. The legendary chairman, he blinked twice. He remembered that the mysterious chairman shared the same name as his wife. Talk about a crazy coincidence, or was it something much bigger? He grabbed his suit jacket and headed straight to the top floor. The room was incredibly tense. Department heads sat there frozen. Even Fiona, the Iron Maiden, looked nervous with her hands clenched. He took his seat near the front, fitting his new status. With a heavy groan, mahogany doors slide open. First comes Secretary Maya, then General Manager Veronica, followed by the elegant and commanding Chairman herself. She wears a pristine, perfectly tailored white business suit that accentuates her slender curves, her hair styled immaculately, and her aura radiating absolute authority. The entire room instantly stands up in unison, welcoming Chairman Vance. Calen's jaw completely drops and hits the floor. His eyes bug out like they are popping from his skull. Standing at the head of that massive conference table is his delicate, easily flustered wife, Serafina. She sweeps her sharp, commanding gaze across the room, but when her eyes land on him, that icy CEO facade cracks for a split second. Faint warmth and a playful glint flash in her eyes. Wifey Calen accidentally mumbles out loud in the dead silent room. Fiona, who is sitting 2 seats away from him, hears it. Her eyes widen in sheer horror, looking like she is about to go into cardiac arrest. The pieces finally click together in Fiona's brain. The old lady's interference, the assigned Xiaomi SU7, his rapid promotion, the chairman's midnight furious phone call. He is not her sugar baby, he is her husband. Please sit, Serafina commands, her voice steady. And corporate restructuring plan. Calen's brain is a chaotic mess of fireworks. His wife is his boss. The company he works for is her company. The Xiaomi SU7, the VIP treatment, it was all her doing. As the meeting adjourns, Serafina looks directly at him. Manager Calen, please come to my office. I need to discuss the e-commerce expansion with you. Yes, Chairman, Calen squeaks out, trying to maintain his professionalism, while Barnaby shoots him a look of pure awe from the back row. The moment the heavy doors of the office click shut behind them, the aloof, untouchable female CEO vanishes. Serafina leans against her massive mahogany desk, her cheeks flushing a brilliant shade of red, looking down at her designer shoes like a child caught stealing candy. Are you mad at me? She asks softly, her voice trembling. I did not mean to hide it. I wanted to be sure you liked me, not my money. Calen stares at her for a long moment, then bursts out laughing. He walks over, wraps his arms round her waist, pulling the grand chairman of Serafina Biological Tech into a tight hug. Mad wifey, he laughs. I am ecstatic. You know how much pressure he was under trying to figure out how to earn enough to support her. He kisses her forehead. Turns out his vintage babe is the ultimate sugar mommy. He really does not have to work hard anymore. Serafina lets out a breath she had been holding and playfully punches his chest. You idiot, you still have to run the e-commerce department. Yes, wifey boss, he grins, stealing a kiss. Right there in her office, with the truth out in the open, their lives fall into a perfect rhythm. He is no longer just the young intern, he is the chairman's fiercely protective husband. Fiona apologizes to him profusely, and he graciously lets bygones be bygones. As for Linnea, she remains at the branch office far away from his sight. However, there is still one. Over at the branch office, far out of his sight, there was still one. One massive hurdle still stood in their way. A month later, Serafina's health was completely back to 100%. She looked younger, more vibrant, and happier than ever. Calen decided it was time to rip the band-aid off. He drove his Xiaomi SU7 back to his parents' house with a deeply nervous Serafina sitting in the passenger seat. She had brought bags upon bags of expensive gifts, her hands sweating nervously. She panicked, asking Calen what if he hated her and thought she stole her son. Serafina panicked as they stood in front of his childhood home, but Calen held her hand tightly, telling her to breathe. He unlocked the door and walked In announcing he brought his girlfriend home to meet her, his mom, Beatrice, came. Bustling right out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron, her face beaming with absolute joy. Get ready for the wildest twist of her life, because Beatrice froze. The smile slid off her face, replaced by a look of utter, mind-boggling shock. She just stared at the woman standing next to Calen, her mouth opening and closing like a goldfish. Sarah, his mom whispered, dropping her dishtowel, asking if it was really Serafina despite what she heard. Hi, B. Serafina said, tears instantly welling up in her eyes, saying it had been a long time. Before his mom could even process that her long-lost best friend was standing in her living room looking radiant, Calen put his arm around Serafina's shoulder and dropped the ultimate bomb, asking his mom to let him reintroduce her as Serafina, his legally wedded wife. The silence in the room was deafening. He could practically hear the gears in his mom's brain grinding to a screeching halt, catching fire and exploding. Your wife, Beatrice's voice was dangerously low. She looked from him to Serafina and back to him, her eyes slowly drifted to the feather duster resting on the nearby cabinet. Calen immediately raised his hands in surrender and delivered the line he had been practicing for months, telling his wife to remember what they talked about, keeping their titles separate with his mom. She can call her mom while his mom keeps calling her bestie. Beatrice snapped she was going to murder him, grabbing the feather duster and chasing him around the living room while Serafina stood there, caught between crying and laughing uncontrollably. Despite the chaotic beginning, that evening ended with the two women hugging and crying on the sofa. His mom was initially furious at the absurdity of the situation, but when she heard about what Serafina had been through, the depression, the coma, the near-death experience, and how their bizarre marriage had literally saved her life, the anger melted into profound gratitude. Calling him a little brat, his mom sniffled, glaring at him while holding Serafina's hand. She reminded him how he always said he would marry her best friend when he was 5, thinking he was just a stupid kid who would never actually pull it off. 2 years later, Calen stood on the balcony of their sprawling penthouse looking out over the glittering city skyline. The evening breeze was warm and refreshing, a pair of soft arms wrapped around his waist. From behind, he leaned back into the familiar sweet embrace of his wife, asking what he was thinking about. Mr. Manager, Serafina asked softly, resting her chin on his shoulder. He turned around and pulled her close, his gaze dropping to her noticeably rounded belly. The doctor had said her body needed 2 years to recover before they could even think about kids. Exactly 2 years and 1 month. After she finally woke up, they received the greatest news ever. Smiling warmly, he gently rested his hand on her baby bump. He went on a blind date with an 80-year-old woman, only to end up with a perfect wife, a thriving career, and a real family. Serafina smiled, her eyes reflecting city lights and absolute love. Leaning up, she kissed him with a lifetime of promises, whispering for him to hold on tight her little hubby, since this vintage babe was never letting him go. He pulled her into his arms, feeling the incredibly soft, gentle kick of their unborn child against his hand. His childhood dream had finally come true, but reality with her was far more beautiful than he could have ever imagined.